Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Keeping You Company, the podcast where Rook and Manu and I ramble on about topics of conversation that we find interesting to learn more about each other and our respective cultures and the like, and also to keep you company at home as well. Hello, Rook. Welcome back.
Hello, Scott Sword.
Welcome.
I'm excited to be back here and hoping to keep you all company and, of course, engage with you, Scott Sword, in conversation. Should be a good time.
Absolutely. So, probably a few housekeeping things to address before we get started. Firstly, do not adjust your audio or anything. Well, you can adjust your audio if you want, but don't start staring at your device going, why does the audio sound a bit maybe worse than normal? Why is Scott Sword sounding so quiet? Is he whispering? Is he ill? What's going on? We'll address that. It's deliberate. we haven't had any technical mess ups. Well, we have had some technical mess ups, but not related to the audio yet.
We hope.
I've probably jinxed it now. And also another thing, Rook, how late are we recording compared to our normal recording timetable? In terms of
Oh,
like the
we're
time
we're
of the
like a
day.
full we're like a full 2 hours behind our normal recording time.
Half deliberate, half deliberate. we, we,
Yes.
we've had some stuff. We were already delayed by an hour for certain reasons, which we'll get into. Um, but then also we've had some tech issues. But hopefully now it's all working. The background footage definitely looks a lot better than it did 5 minutes ago, so that's good. So again, some of you may recognize the background footage. A rookie might be you'll be seeing this for the first time. It is from a game called Rollercoaster Tycoon. So, do you know anything about said game?
I know almost nothing about said game. I have heard of it, and I know that you play it on your Twitch streams. What is it, every Monday?
It is on every Monday. Yes.
There you go. And I know that that happens, but I have not actually been to a stream or looked at it. I don't know if you archive it of Roller Coaster Tycoon of yours. So
Oh,
I know almost nothing about this game.
well, it's got a little bit of a cult status with it because it's quite old games from the mid 90s, I want to say, mid to late 90s. Um, Developed by a Scottish developer, Chris Sawyer. And it's actually the second proper PC game I ever owned after Transport Tycoon, which was also built after built by Chris Sawyer. So basically, yeah, he started with Transport Tycoon, which is a sort of a simulator, sort of yeah, tycoon management game where you have trucks and trains and boats and ferries and whatever, and you ship cargo and passengers around on the map, um, and compete against the AI and whatever. And then he was trying to work on a sequel to that game, but then he had taken some time off while developing the sequel, and he was visiting some theme parks in America, and he got really inspired by it. So his next game was Roller Coaster Tycoon, which is basically like a little theme park management sandbox builder type game. Um, and
That's
uh,
pretty cool.
and it's kind of legendary because I can't remember the specifics, but the way it's coded um, is really good. That you can have a game from, as I said, like the 90s and still have thousands of guests inside your park and all the roller coasters and things are all running and it works very very smoothly. um, and so it's very impressive the way it was all coded and the like. And it had it's like become this really famous franchise with multiple sequels, some more successful than others. But it's
Mhm.
basically it's a game, especially people of like my age were just getting. If you're getting into video games at a certain age, you'll know about Roller Coaster Tycoon. So it's got like this slightly legendary status about it, even though there are lots of like modern roller coaster. Like there's one called Planet Coaster, which is I think done very very well.
Mhm.
Roller Coaster Tycoon still has this very sort of like yeah, as I said, cult following. And a lot of interest in the game, and they've made like a open source version of it now, which builds upon the original and everything. So it's yeah, it's definitely one of the more sort of popular games I play on stream. Um,
Cool.
and it just turns into a big meme fest. There's a lot of meme related stuff with my community. We've got
Oh boy.
one member who is obsessed with balloons. So the minute
Oh,
we unlock the balloon stand, we have to have like the rainbow colored balloons like all over the park. As you'll see in the footage, there's a lot of balloons
Oh
around.
boy.
Um, a lot of the rides get named after things that we chat about on stream. See, I want to apologize in advance. There might be some names of the rides which might be a bit rude. I didn't vet them before recording this background footage. So if you see anything that's like, what the hell is that name meant to be? Just it's something. It must have been something that came up on stream. Just ignore it and move on. But the other thing I really love about this game, which allows that interaction between, as the streamer and then the chat, is not only can you get them to name rides and all that sort of stuff, but the guests, the guest names can be changed. They've all got
Ooh.
default names. They've always got a first name and then a surname. That's just an initial
Hmm.
um, when they spawn. But you can actually change their name, and you can actually click a little button on the guest information screen, which means you can get updates about what they're doing while
Oh,
you
that's
go
fun.
around the park. Or if you want to go even more extreme, you can press a different button that keeps the screen locked on them. So what I always do
Wow.
on stream is anybody who comes in, and even if they just say one message in the chat, I will make them a guest. So it's really cool. You start seeing all of my Twitch chat basically entering the park and going on different rides and seeing what they get up to.
Oh,
um,
that's really fun.
so we've done it for you, Rook. You are now, for this background footage, you are a guest in 3 of my parks. We'll see if we get through all three. It depends on how long we talk for, especially since we're starting a little bit later. But yeah, you're in Trinity Islands right now, and then I think it's Bumbly Beach, and then I can't remember the third one off the top of my head. Oh, Funtopia, I think it is. And yeah, you basically enter the park, and we're going to follow you around and see what you get up to.
Ooh, I'm curious to see what I do too.
Are
I
you
have
are you
no
the,
idea.
are you the type of person who would go to a theme park? And if you did, would you go on the big scary roller coasters, or what would you do?
Oh, I would go to a theme park and go on the scary roller coasters. There was one trip that I went to Japan where I had heard from friends of mine who traveled, more extensively than I did. Well, if you discount the fact that I walked the length and width of the country at the end of my time there, but up till that point, uh, they traveled a lot more extensively than I did, and they went to places like specifically to do things as opposed to like the walk, which is very different, right? You're basically just walking on a route. You're not necessarily doing touristy stuff.
Hmm.
But I heard about this place called Fuji Q Highlands, and they said they're like supposed to have the best roller coasters in Japan. And
And you're like, challenge accepted.
I was like, okay, like this, it's a long time ago now, so it's probably changed a great deal. But I got in touch with one of my friends who lives in Tokyo, and I was like, this is the time I want to go to Fuji Highland. And he was like, yeah, it's been a long time since I've been there, and I could stand to go again. So we ended up going on that trip, and it was incredible. It was just, roller coaster after roller coaster after roller coaster. And they have these things where it's like, okay, this one you only need to like take stuff out of your pockets, like, and then you go on another one. It's like this one you have to take off like everything that like hats, glasses, stuff in your pockets, like anything that could potentially fall off. It cannot be on your body.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
Oh.
and yeah, they're famously pretty intense. Actually, uh, I since saw some headlines that they had to like close down certain rides because they're a little bit too dangerous. So maybe I dodged a bullet.
There's clearly some sort of like safety inspection after you'd been there.
Yeah,
Wow. I wouldn't have
yeah.
thought
But
that.
I've
If
always,
if you if you'd asked me like in some sort of like Rook trivia quiz, I wouldn't have put you down as a roller coaster guy. But fair play.
yeah. Well, I sort of go back and forth is the thing. I ever since I was a kid, I've been sort of obsessed with the idea of roller coasters, but I've also always been scared of them. So
Maybe it's
I
just
go through these moments where I like the caution is the greater part of my uh composition, and I'm just like roller coasters are cool and all, but I think I'm just gonna not go on them. Like I would read facts about roller coasters and be like never, never, I'm never going on the Superman or whatever. uh and then I'd go on what happens is eventually I get on some sort of roller coaster and I have a great time. And then it's like, oh, like I don't need to be as scared of this as I am. And then I go like it's like a burst where it's like, now I got to do all the roller coasters.
Right. And
And I'll
then
go and challenge myself and get out. And then, yeah, and then time will go by, and it's like I forget all that, and the fear becomes dominant once more, and I can no longer go on, roller coasters. I'm like, forget it.
oh, see, I'm the I mean I again I'd say they're cool things, but I'm just really bad with. I don't get sick, but I just don't like movement or heights when I'm not enclosed. If that makes sense. Like if I'm in
Hmm.
an airplane, don't care. If I'm on a train moving really quickly, but because I'm in an enclosed space, I don't get travel sick or anything like that. It's just the idea of being on a roller coaster and having those sharp, like G forces, and your stomach gets pushed up, and all this sort of like those feelings, and I just
Hmm.
I wouldn't be able to cope. Um, there's a theme park fairly close to where I live in the part of Spain called Portaventura, and we've kept meaning to go, but then every time we meant to go, especially before we had the car, there would always be a reason why we didn't go. And now we've had
Oh,
the car, we haven't had a chance to go yet. And then it's always typical, especially since, well, that's another story, but yeah, as both teachers, I'm not a teacher anymore, but as as soon as you are working in the teaching profession, the only holidays you have is when the kids have holidays. That means everywhere is jam
yep.
packed, right? So
Hmm.
it's yeah, I don't know when we'll have a chance to go. We'll have to see. But yeah, I've seen there's a couple of scary roller coasters there. I'm just like, yeah, I don't know if I want to go on those. the
Right.
the only thing I've done which has been like really sort of extreme was at a water park in Germany, and I was with two friends on the exchange trip I was on, and they kind of just said, "Oh, let's go on this particular slide." I was like, sure, whatever. What's the problem?"
Hmm.
But it's one of those where as soon as you go into it, you get told you have to put your hands like across your chest, and you have to keep your body as streamlined as possible because it's like one of those like almost sheer vertical drops.
Oh boy.
And I can't remember how fast you get by the time you get to the bottom. I think if I said you got to like 50 kilometers per hour by the time you got to the bottom, that might not be an exaggeration.
Wow.
Let's see, looking at over 30 miles an hour by the time you get to the bottom, which is very impressive for a human, and it's not a very tall drop either. But the thing is,
Wow.
I didn't have a chance to get scared because you just step forward and you just see like the abyss, and the thing is,
Hmm.
you just gain speed so fast. It's not like other slides where maybe you'll see the bumps and things and you'll be like, oh my god, I have to go down that. You just see this dark hole, you jump
Hmm.
down it, and then before you know it, you're at the bottom. There's no like opportunity for you to think about it. So,
Wow.
um, but I think that one was okay because it was just straight down. There was no,
Hmm.
hills per se or anything like you get on a roller coaster. So yeah, I like building the roller coasters digitally, but I don't know if I would. I don't know if I'd be very good on a real one, but we'll have to see. Maybe in the future I'll get dragged up one, and we'll see. Maybe I'll be like you. I'll be like, oh yeah, I enjoy it, but I somehow doubt it. But it might just be one of those things I'll put onto my bucket list just to say I've lived a little. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't have the expectation that I would enjoy it. But anywho, so yeah, at the moment I'm doing digital roller coasters, and that's fun. There's also it's like a
Oh
nice,
yeah.
really nice nostalgia trip for me because it was a game I played a lot as a kid. But obviously, as you're a kid, you don't play it as well as you do
No.
as an
Yeah.
adult when you see it. But it's also like an excuse for me to try and get a bit of creativity going because if I
Hmm.
was an adult, I've lost a lot of my imagination. So just trying to sort of tap into that a bit more. So
Hmm.
yeah, we'll follow you around the parks. I guess if you were a real guest in the park, then you're preferred because they're like different rides and they have different intensities. So your intensity rating would probably be quite high then at Rook. So we'll have to see.
Well, I don't know. I think it would. What I think would happen would be like, as you go through the course of my day at the park, it would start out at like a really low intensity, and then I'd go on a low intensity ride, and then it would like shoot up to a high intensity, and I'd do all the high intensity stuff, and then it would drop back down, and I'd leave.
Okay, so in the
But I have,
early configurations, Chris Sawyer did not take that into account.
yeah,
We'll have to give
which makes
feedback on that.
sense. Yeah, which makes sense. But I have about well, I was just about to say about as many memories of waiting for people while they went on roller coasters that I refused to go on as I do of going on roller coasters. But I don't know if that's actually true because I can't actually quantify every time I have or haven't been on a roller coaster. But I like seriously, I have like the two positions inside myself that just go back and forth, where I'm either like not interested at all in going on a roller coaster or very interested in going on a roller coaster, and it just I don't know what exactly flips the switch, but it does go back and forth. Also, fun fact: tycoon, the etymology of that word comes from Japanese.
Ah, interesting. And what is
Yep.
the specific root?
So it comes from Tai, which is an alternate reading of I'm pretty sure die. I'm looking at it in English language etymology, not a like Japanese breakdown, but I'm pretty sure I've seen it in Japanese before. And the Tai is from big, which is normally read as die, but in this case it's Tai. And then kun, which is like uh these days you can use the same Japanese character to mean like you, but especially like in earlier times, it was more like an honorable form of address. So it's a way of talking about like a lord. And so you get
Ah.
the idea of a great lord or a prince.
Huh.
And it's a word that Japanese speakers, this is coming from the English language etymology that I'm looking up right now. It was used by Japanese speakers specifically with people who were from abroad because they wanted to give the idea because foreigners came from abroad and they were like, we want to talk to your leader. And the Japanese people were like, oh, our leader's the emperor. But if you know anything about Japanese history, the emperor is like the leader in name only for basically all of Japanese, not literally all of Japanese history. And there have been important moments where there are like sort of swings back and forth in terms of where the actual power is in Japanese history, actually with the emperor or with someone around the emperor. But for the vast majority of Japanese history, it's somebody other than the emperor who pays lip service to the power of the emperor, who's got all the political power.
Mm.
And around the time the foreigners came in, that was the shogun. And so they wanted to get across this idea that, okay, you want to talk to our leader. Our leader is nominally the emperor, but really you want to talk to this guy, the great lord, because that's the person who's actually got the power, the
Ah.
political power.
Oh
So you want to talk
wow.
to the tycoon, and then that meaning spread from there.
Right. Right. Whereas now, like especially from a gaming perspective, it's like more from like a monetary thing rather
Yeah.
than.
Well, the transferred meaning important person is attested by 1861 in reference to U.S. President Abraham Lincoln, found in the diary of his secretary. And the specific application to wealthy and powerful businessman is something that came about post World War One.
Oh.
So now it's specifically in the English language sphere. It's got that nuance of someone who's like powerful in business,
Right. Right.
and that's how it
Oh.
made its way into the tycoon games, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. It's
Hmm.
like nowadays, there's like every other game has the word simulator in its
Oh
name,
yeah.
right? That's for one. Like there's water park simulator, power war simulator, Euro truck simulator, right? Um,
Hmm.
back then, it felt like every other game had tycoon after it. There's
Oh
like this
yeah.
whole thing. I don't even know now how many of them were actually part of the same franchise. Like I know there's a Zoo Tycoon, but I don't know if Zoo Tycoon was actually developed by the same company that made Rollercoaster Tycoon, or by Chris Sawyer, or if it's the developing company, or if it was just Tycoon is this marketable word which sells lots of copies of video games. Let's put it in the title.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it's maybe it was all franchise. I'm not too sure now, but yeah, so it's yeah, it's interesting. Whereas now you don't really hear the word so much in terms of gaming. Maybe I'm wrong, but yeah, it was very much a thing from that era. Um,
Hmm.
so there you go. Wow, there you go. Very nice, very nice indeed. Um, in terms of the title of the podcast, we're not going to try and do anything clever or jokey. I think we're just going to keep it simple, especially since this podcast might be a little bit shorter than normal and we're recording it under interesting circumstances. You do realize, by the way, um, Uruk, we did our live stream episode for the last
Yes,
month. Obviously, we recorded that quite a bit in advance. Um, you do realize that was the last live stream I did before my life was completely upended.
I do realize that. Yes, I see we're entering here into the main topic. Part of the reason why we're recording under such strange circumstances with such odd, unusual audio.
And also, I'm not in my normal location either. That's something else as well. I'm back.
Yeah,
If anybody knows the OGs of my YouTube channel, if they know the old room that I used to record in, well, I'm back in that room. Not permanently. Don't worry, nothing. There's nothing very very serious has happened or anything detrimental. But yeah, just we've just temporarily moved locations. So I'm back into that old recording space, because I guess now it's, yeah, as of the time of recording, about a month and a half ago, I became a dad. Woo!
hooray!
Woo! Whoop whoop whoop. So there you go. So yes,
Yes,
the biggest of changes. So yeah,
biggest of changes indeed.
so that's why I'm whispering, because said baby and also wife, very important, are sleeping next door, and we mustn't wake up either of them under any circumstances.
Absolutely not. No, sleep with a young child, like absolutely vital
Yeah,
for parents and child both.
yeah. So I'm abusing that fact since I'm recording this podcast after midnight. But hey ho, what are you gonna do?
hmm
People need their entertainment. So yeah, so it's been
Yep. And
there you go.
yeah, I was just gonna say, I heard the news. I feel like people who are plugged into your Discord community heard the news. You went away for a little while. Now you're
Yeah,
back, and I was like, well, this is our podcast to talk about things in our lives. We have to talk about Scott Storrs becoming a father. I feel like that's got to be like the main topic for this particular episode of Keeping You Company.
I've got nothing else to contribute, to be honest. I mean, if we didn't, it'd be a pretty short podcast. It would just be you monologuing. I'll be like, yep, okay, great, we're done.
Yep.
um, so yeah, it's yeah, pretty wild. Yeah, it's so funny to think. Yeah, that live stream we did was the last live stream I did before, yeah, Baby L, as we refer to on the internet, came along. But again, it was really funny
hmm
because obviously we recorded that on a Sunday, and then the Monday night happened, and everybody in the community tuned in for my Roller Coaster Tycoon stream, which didn't happen.
hmm
they were all they were all waiting very patiently, and then all the messages started flooding into this one, going, "Oh my god, is it happening?" It's very funny. In the couple of weeks prior, any time where I would be slightly late or I would disappear, everybody started thinking it was the moment. I was like, no, it's not. Calm yourselves. Um,
hmm
so yeah, it's been yeah, quite yeah a very stressful but
hmm
obviously very delightful almost 7 weeks now, more or less, since
Mm.
all of that. So yeah, we should probably back up a tiny bit and just go. Obviously, uh, the preceding 9 months more or less had gone absolutely fine.
hmm
Because anybody
I
who,
remember I remember being surprised at how available you were on the internet while your wife was pregnant.
yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of that was just because of the way my schedule was kind of aligned anyway. Things
hmm
didn't really change when she was pregnant because,
Mm.
you know, I would normally be streaming or doing, even if I know I technically started streaming after she became pregnant, but even if I was doing Fear of Dracula related stuff or any other gaming related stuff, I'd always be doing it late at night because my
hmm
work pattern was always waking up late and going to bed late. So, because she would always go to bed early anyway, um, that would mean um, that didn't change. And by the
hmm
end, she was going to bed even earlier than normal.
hmm
So, you know, the 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 streaming didn't really affect the pregnancy stuff. Anything that she needed help with would be done during the day when I was awake anyway. Um,
That makes sense.
so yeah, my availability during the actual pregnancy, apart from the few, obviously there were times where I had to go to certain appointments and things, but they were normally during the day, so it wouldn't affect said streaming. Um,
Hmm.
Obviously, since has been born, then obviously my availability, as you can imagine, has just plummeted.
Yes.
So I've done a couple of streams. I don't know how many. I've probably done about half a dozen, I think, with Fear of Dracula related stuff.
Hmm.
But the whole schedule of being on Twitch every night is obviously out the window. But I already knew that was going to be the case anyway. There's not a surprise or anything. I'm not sitting here going, "Oh, boohoo me!" Right? I already knew that
Yeah.
was going to be the case. It's we're in that period of adjustment.
Hmm.
We need to try and just concentrate on L, and also then from my perspective, Mrs. Scotswold's recovery, and then
Hmm.
slowly things will sort of settle, and then
Yeah.
I can look and go, right, where can I find space to. So that the only time I've streamed since has been either late at night,
Hmm.
even later than normal, um, or if literally Mrs. Scotswold takes L out of the flat, not for me, not for my benefit, but just because she's like, we're going for a walk. And I'd be like, right, okay, I've got 2 hours free. I can try and stream something if if a game of Fear of Dracula suddenly becomes available to me.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, but otherwise, I haven't. And when I have been streaming at night, it's always been like much later. That's why we arranged to talk at 11 o'clock my time rather than 10 o'clock, just because I
Right.
know 11 o'clock L is normally, unless something very strange happens, L is normally asleep. Whereas
Hmm.
10 o'clock, she could be asleep or she might not be asleep. And then
Hmm.
it's just better just to go, nah, I'm not even going to plan anything for 10 o'clock because I don't know what's going to happen. So, again,
Yep.
as a routine develops in the coming months, then we can sort of things will settle. But right now we're living in flux a little bit and just kind of
Yeah. We'll
whatever
see. We'll see
whatever Elle
about
wants
that
to do.
routine.
Right.
We'll see about that routine developing. I've got some friends who've had kids before, and sometimes it develops pretty quick, and sometimes they think it's never going to arrive. So,
Right. Right. Well, I'll just see. I mean, the thing is also my work pattern's about to change. Um,
yes,
so
that's right. You have more news, more upheaval in your life.
yeah. So the same week I found out. Yeah, the same week I found out that I was a dad. So I became a dad. I knew I was going to be a dad. It wasn't a surprise. The same week I became a dad, I got a new job. um,
Yeah.
so that job is now going to be regular hours. I was going to say 9 to 5. It's not 9 to 5. It's 8 till 5:30. But with
Interesting.
a long work. So Monday to Friday, no weekends. Hallelujah. So no late night working. Hallelujah. So obviously that means late night gaming is very much out of the question, except for the weekend. So
I,
again,
I thought you were going to say that means late night gaming is back on the table.
well, if I want to be irresponsible, sure.
Yeah.
Um, so again,
Who needs sleep anyway?
exactly, completely overrated. Completely
No, no,
overrated.
it's fun to say as a joke, but that's terrible advice. I actually value sleep pretty highly, so.
Yeah, same. But then again, I value sleep, and then I always go against it. But never mind. Um, yeah. So again, I'm gonna have to take some adjusting, to the new job, but also to having that routine, and we'll just kind of see how that sort of connects together and everything. But the good thing is just like I'm really happy. I'll be by 6 o'clock every night. I'll be back home. Um,
Hmm.
so I can see Elle a lot, and that's gonna be really good just to see her. Even though I'll miss stuff during the day, I'll be able to catch up with her before she goes to bed. I will just arrive home and she'll already be sleeping. I'll still be able to
Hmm.
see her around dinner time and things. So yeah, that's gonna be really nice. And then yeah, we'll just play it by ear. But yeah, it's been I don't know how much we want to go into the specifics of the last month and a half. Because I know maybe for people who
I'm
don't
curious.
have kids, it
I'm
might be a bit of a
curious.
snooze fest. But we'll see. We can go into
I'm
as much detail as you want.
I'm curious to go even further back, actually. Like, when did you first find out, and what was your reaction?
Oh, well, we found out. Um, well, people can do the maths.
Well, yeah,
um,
they can.
in terms of
So can you.
this is not no secret. Um,
But
I'm
baby schedules are a little bit variable.
right. I'm trying to remember the exact. Was it inside of December? Oh, this is terrible now. If I can remember, I can't remember. Oh God, see, time's flown
Would you
by
have
now.
known by Christmas? Were
Oh
you telling
yeah,
people?
yeah.
Also,
Yeah. By Christmas,
there's a whole
certainly.
okay.
No, I
There's a
think
there's a
no.
whole period where you're not supposed to talk about that, right?
Right. Well, actually, no. Now I remember. No, it was actually early December because we had a holiday here. So then the day that we found out, we're actually going to go around to my in-laws because it was a holiday and we're going to have
Mm-hmm.
dinner or lunch with them as we always do. So yeah, so it's a funny story. I don't know if Mrs. Scotts will be happy with me telling this, but I'm going to tell it anyway because it's funny. So this kind of
Ooh.
gives a bit of an insight to our characters. So I obviously would have had a late night of gaming, whatever that would have been. At that time, I wasn't on Twitch yet, so I was probably doing something Fear of Dracula related or Wingspan or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Went to bed, blah blah blah, at whatever time, half midnight, 1 a.m. And then I get woken up, and Mrs. Godsword's in a little bit of a panic, going, "Come here, come here." And obviously, I'm thinking, "Where's the fire? Is there a burglar? What's going on?" Right? And then, she shows me the the pregnancy test, and I look at it, and obviously, we're very happy, and we congratulate each other and hug and whatever. And then I was like, "What time is it?" And it was 2:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So Mrs. Cotswold couldn't wait. So this has now become a recurring joke that she's so impatient that she couldn't even wait until the next morning to either A, find out, or B, tell me.
Wow. Well, the telling you I understand. Finding out I can sort of understand too, honestly. But
So she clearly what happened was she must have woken up and then her brain just started churning because she was obviously a few
hmm
days late. And she was like, let's check and find out. Because the thing is, like, again, without sharing too many intimate details, but maybe there might be people listening to this who I do know they're in certain communities like on mine and other communities who might listen to this. There are people who are maybe looking to start a family soon, so this might be helpful.
hmm
Um, we were a little bit surprised just because, again, without being too specific, our activity hadn't been very high that month. Let's just say.
Okay.
Um, but we'd had other months where we've been trying really, really hard and failed.
hmm
So it's just a sort of like as a wee sort of note there that if you're out there and you're trying to have a family and it's not, and it's again it's frustrating for both of you, but for the potential mother it's even worse because you've got then the period and all this sort of stuff. But don't don't stress about it because it will just happen. It'll happen when you least expect it. Don't panic about it. Um,
You can't know, you can't plan.
right, exactly. You got it's out of your control. So just don't stress about it. Um, and I mean, like doing it every day doesn't guarantee everything, right? So
hmm
doesn't guarantee it. Just do what you can and don't freak out about it one way or the other, and it will just happen. So, um, and then you're right. Yeah, it's about there's like normally that 3 month window because there's so much risk
hmm
involved. Um,
Right.
I mean, there's risk with all the pregnancy anyway, but especially in the first 3 months, and there's certain milestones that the
hmm
baby has to hit. But I think in the end, quite a lot of people found out fairly quickly. Um,
Oh, wow.
Partly because, again, revealing our characters slightly, and also I'm the same. Mrs. Scotswood isn't a very good liar, and she's not very good
Oh,
at hiding stuff. So
yep.
as soon as she was going into work, and she's normally very well known to have lots of coffee and to have to like these types of like there's certain types of food that she likes, and then suddenly she goes into work saying, "No, I don't want any. I'm not having any coffee. No, I can't have tuna." Everyone's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, we said something here."
Yep.
They put two and two together and definitely made four. So yeah, in that sense, people found out in in our very close family and professional circles, people found out very quickly.
Mm.
Um, But then, yeah, once 3 months had passed, then we felt a little bit more sort of comfortable about telling a wider circle and things. The big thing for me was then when I was going to tell online community. I can't remember
Yeah.
exactly when I let that slip. Actually, I think it must have been around. It's either March or May. I think this May too late. I think around March, maybe a little bit later than that. Maybe around April. It's something that was in the spring. It was way past the three
Mm-hmm.
months. Way past the 3 months. We're probably around 4.5, 5 months at that point. And I
Mm-hmm.
only told it because everybody was nagging me on stream to get a pet. um, and I was like, I can't get a pet right now. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, right, fuck it. I have to tell everybody why I can't get a pet. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So then the cat was out of the bag. And then it became quite a source of entertainment on stream. People
Oh
talking
yeah.
about it and whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we felt more comfortable at that point just because obviously the risk factor was a little bit lower and everything was going very well and the milestones were being met. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, um, another funny sort of story was we had, so I don't know how it works in the States or whatever, but the way it works over here, at least in Spain, is if you go through the public system
Mm-hmm.
of for the hospital and everything, you will get a scan every trimester, and there's
Okay.
also, now I'm going to get this wrong because I can't remember how many weeks it is, but there's a very specific week where you also get
Mm.
another. I've got it in Spanish. Ultrasound. There we go. In English,
Okay.
ultrasound. There's a very specific week where you get an additional ultrasound because they do a lot of testing for Down syndrome, and there are
Mm.
two more which I'm gonna not say, so I'm gonna butcher the names of them. But they're again similar sort of chromosome related um, syndromes with the baby and the
Mm-hmm.
development and everything. But then if you go through the private system, to how they do it, you might get monthly scans. So
Mm-hmm.
not again, I'm not advocating one way or the other. The only thing I'll just say is every healthcare person we interacted with in the public system and in the private system were very professional with us, and we rate them 10 out of 10 without any
That's
question,
great.
no doubts at all. Um, but my wife gave birth in a public hospital, but she was also in the private system, and she got extra scans, and she got monthly scans. So she went off. I can't remember when it was. It must have been around Christmas time or so, or just before Christmas for her first. It wasn't even a first scan; it was her first appointment with her private gynecologist and everything. Um, and she just, we were talking who goes with her. I was very, adamant that I would be very proactive and go with her to all the appointments I could. I think I only missed like one other during the whole pregnancy. Um,
Nice.
but for the first one, she was like, "Oh, I'll take my mum." I was like, "Okay, if you're really sure,
Mm-hmm.
I'll happily go with you. But if you want to go with your mum, that's fine." Then what happens? They come back from the appointment, and she just walks into my office, and I was playing a game or whatever, and she puts an ultrasound picture in front of me. I was like, how can
Mm-hmm.
they have an ultrasound picture? Like the baby's like barely a month old. How is this possible? Right? It's just the technology is very impressive, and you see through all the ultrasounds how it's developed. But yeah, the first ultrasound was just like this tiny little blob, but it was there. Um,
Wow.
so yeah, that was really cool. I was just staring at it for ages, going, "Oh, that's amazing!" And then obviously you see all the ones that happened thereafter. So I've got quite a collection of physical and digital ultrasound pictures. So a project I've got, which I want to do, um, is I want to put together like a scrapbook, like a photo
Oh,
album,
cool.
but I want to include some of the ultrasound pictures in the scrapbook. I think it's very nice sort
Mm-hmm.
of to see that development, to remember it too. Um,
Yeah. Out
So
of curiosity, have you been interested? Have you encountered like ultrasounds of babies in other parts of your life up to this point?
no,
And okay,
very easy answer. Very easy answer. No,
okay,
no, no, no. The only ultrasounds I've ever seen are the ones on TV. There's actually something I wanted to bring up.
interesting.
Actually, a lot of how I assumed that the pregnancy and the birth, how everything would progress. A lot of it is being influenced by media. Um, so there's a
Mm-hmm.
few things. So yeah, ultrasounds. I've seen them on films and things, but it's so different when you see it in the flesh. It's really cool to see that. The other thing is the whole thing about the waters breaking.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things in film and TV. Almost every pregnant woman, right, have their waters burst. But
Right.
apparently, a very small percentage of women actually experience it. In terms of it happening naturally, I mean, a lot of them, the waters burst, but they do it in the hospital. They'll prod it and it'll burst. But in terms of it
Oh,
actually
okay.
happening naturally, oh, I was sitting at a restaurant having lunch and my waters broke. The majority of people don't experience that, which I didn't know. Um, and yeah, the other thing was just like the whole birth process in terms of not how long it was, but just the way it's done. Again, it might depend on where you live in the world, but I assumed for the entire time that the the mother would be in a private birthing room, but you're not. For the majority of it, you're inside a dilation room, and the room is basically filled up with these. Well, in Spanish they call them boxes. It's like a
Hmm.
cubicle where you have your bed. It has walls on three sides, and you have a curtain in front, and you do all the dilation process inside the box. But
Hmm.
there are also 10 other women in their own individual boxes also dilating, and you can
Wow.
hear if they're going through a particularly painful episode or period of the dilation process. You hear everything,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Wow.
which as a first time parent, mentally you can't really prepare yourself for that. It's um it's pretty wild. We've got a story about that. We'll see if we can go into that later. But yeah, it's just very interesting how yeah there's a lot of not misinformation, but just like misconceptions about how just things work, um, and how things will actually progress. So it's very enlightening in that sense to experience it all. Um, Obviously, it's easier for me. I didn't have the pressure of giving birth or carrying the baby for 9 months. Obviously, I've got a very privileged position. I can say, "Oh, isn't it fascinating? It's so I'm much more knowledgeable now than before."
Mm-hmm.
Whereas, obviously, my wife carried all of the burden, so she did very
Right.
well. Um, but yeah, basically, if in case, do you have any other questions about the earlier stuff, or do we go into
Oh
the
yeah,
actual?
I'm curious. I'm curious if you like because this is something that you obviously went through in Spain.
Hmm.
I'm curious if there were like anything like baby showers or other sorts of things. Were there like cultural events along the way that you either were or weren't expecting based off of your upbringing, or even again from what you've seen in media, that turned out to be different because you were specifically like having this experience in Spain?
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know actually. That's a good question. I think because also I obviously have no UK experience of this apart from media. I think just because the age I am and all my other relatives in my family, I haven't been around any like really close members of my family who've gone through the process. And
Mm-hmm.
there have been some which have had kids recently, but I've not been like seeing it really close. I only got to know the kids after they were born, not during the whole
Mm-hmm.
pregnancy or anything. Um, in terms of baby showers, we didn't have one. I don't even know if they're really a thing here. Again, they're not really a thing in the UK. I think people might have them, but that's maybe just more because they've seen it in US media, and then
Interesting.
they've decided, oh, let's do that. Again, I'll preface everything I'm saying and whatever I say in this podcast, especially if it's something that we did, and just say every every parent can do it their own way. I'm not going to fight with people who do it differently. But I think baby showers are a complete waste of time. But hey,
Interesting.
you
How do you get stuff? Because that's one of the things that's one of the roles that they serve is that it's an excuse for everybody in a community or in a family to sort of pool together and help set a new family on their way. And
right,
like they can have registries and get all the presents and get
right.
everything to them. So how do you deal with that?
Well, again, I don't know how it works in the UK, but in Spain, people are generally quite open about. So it also happens for weddings as well. People are very open. Uh, Nowadays in Spain, for example, for weddings, people don't have a wedding list. Normally, people just
Hmm.
give money at weddings, and what normally happens is some people are really blunt about it and they put the bank account on the wedding invite. I personally hate that. I think it looks very tacky, but again, people can do whatever they want.
Hmm.
It's your wedding. You do what you want. Um, but we had it for our wedding, where as soon as people got the invitation and they said yes, we're coming to the wedding. Please, can you tell us your bank account details and we'll send you something. Um,
Hmm.
and then with the baby, we haven't had it quite so much, but we have had people. So what the way we did it was we went to one shop and we basically went through a catalogue and we picked out all the things that we thought we would need and we got put onto like a
Hmm.
baby list.
Right.
And the way we said was right, we need to buy all these things. So we're
Hmm.
going to basically put down a deposit to buy all of this stuff. However,
Hmm.
if somebody messages us and says, "Can we buy you something specific?" then we send them the list, and when if you want to pick something off this list, you can. If you want to find something else, you can do that too. So that's how we did it. So we had a few people who um, went onto the list and bought us certain things. We bought the rest. Some other people have bought us stuff which was not on the list.
Hmm.
Um, we've had some hand-me-down stuff from other members of the family. It just depended. So yeah, it's not all big. I think the objection that maybe I'll speak for myself, but maybe British
Hmm.
people too, is just the very public nature of the baby shower, right?
Mm.
Whereas here, it's a lot more private. It's quite nice that a couple of friends can just come round to the flat and just say, "Oh, by the way, we bought this for you off the list," and they bring it to us wrapped if they want, or they'll say, "Oh, we've bought it. It's waiting at the shop. You can pick it up whenever you want." So it's a lot more sort of private.
Interesting.
We don't normally like. Again, it all depends on the person, but I would say generally, I would say for me, I'd be very embarrassed having to open lots of presents in front of. As a kid, I hated it. Even just on
Hmm.
Christmas Day, having to
Wow.
open up all my presents in front of my parents. That was embarrassing enough. I can't even
Wow.
imagine being in the room when every single person is there, and then also thinking that people are going to compare each other. Oh, you bought that thing, that's more expensive than that thing, and all this sort of stuff. And it's just like, no, I can't be dealing with that. I would be very against it. So yeah, we had people privately give us stuff, and then we can thank them individually, and it's all fine. I don't like the idea of just having a huge spectacle about it, but that's just me. I know it's a lot more sort of ingrained in American culture. Do you have like a counter to that? Because you might have seen it yourself.
Like I don't know what you mean by like counter, but I can say that it's pretty normal to have like a baby shower and also for like weddings they'll have registries where it's the same sort of thing, right? You go to a specific store and you make up a list. You can go to multiple stores, but I think most people just go to one because it's such a big hassle. And you put everything you want onto a giant list, and then people can give cash. They can buy things off the list. They can buy things that aren't on the list, but that's usually discouraged. And the difference is, they show up and they make a big party out of it and they open things. It's actually kind of funny. The wedding part of it, like every single wedding that I went to, except in Japan, uh, I was expected to get something off of a registry, except for one of my other friends. And because they never sent any sort of information about a registry. I never had any idea like what they were expecting me to
Right.
get them for their wedding. And so I
Ah.
just went to the wedding. And then my friend called me up later and was like, "Did you not give us a card?" And I was like, "I was supposed to bring a card."
Oh no. Right. When there's like a social expectation of
Yeah.
giving, right? I think that's the thing. Like for our wedding, the Spanish and Catalan contingent, they knew like the protocol in terms
Right.
of, um, they said they were coming and like, right, you're basically you're paying for our grub and stuff for the day. We'll send you something nice.
Hmm.
Um, Whereas then from the British contingency, um, some didn't give anything, but that's fine. I'm not
Hmm.
complaining about it because they went to the greater expense of coming over because we had the wedding in Spain. So like I'm not sitting there
Hmm.
like, why didn't you give us anything? I didn't. I don't expect presents, right? But I always went
Yeah.
into like we have to fund this wedding ourselves. If we get presents,
Hmm.
that's like a bonus on top. But I'm not asking for for anything if people can't or don't want to give or whatever. But there were some other than some of the British contingents who did come gave us more personalized presents. Some just bought cards, some brought us more personalized gifts. Loved it all.
Hmm.
Loved it all. So it's yeah. Um, for
Yeah.
the
And Japan, by the way, is very much in that sort of transactional thing. It's like you give money at a wedding, and there's like certain like minimums that are expected even. And
yeah.
because we were the foreigners, right? A couple of my friends got married in Japan, and I was able to go to their weddings. Well, I think one friend of mine got married in Japan, and I couldn't make it. But uh, most of my friends who got married in Japan, who I could make it to their weddings, it was like, okay, this is like the list of everything that they expect out of a Japanese wedding, and so this is what we're going to be asking of you. And in that case, like I at least appreciated the clarity, right? Where it could be like, okay, they're telling me exactly what they want. It's like, okay, you must, when you show up, you must provide this amount of money. And for one of my friends, I was like in charge of, greeting people at the door, like helping out, that sort of thing. That wasn't like standard. That was just because he's a friend of mine. But it was really interesting to me to contrast that with the regular social expectations in the States. And then my one friend who got married in the States, who did something that to me at least was unusual. And I had like no notice of it. That was the biggest surprise to me. And it was like, okay, well, I'll make it up to you.
Right. I mean, like people might look at like the Japanese way of doing it and go, "Oh, that's a bit cold," but at least everybody knows where they stand, right? Um,
Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing, right? Is whatever your cultural like expectations are, whatever that society is, right? If everyone's on board, that's fine for
right.
the most part.
Right. It's when someone deviates from the norm. That's when people might get a little bit, you know, um, irate about it, whatever. The way I approached it for my wedding was everybody who we invited to the wedding were people that we wanted at our wedding, and
Hmm.
that doesn't change if they give us a present or not. So we're not gonna, we're not gonna complain one way or the other.
Yeah.
Um, but
It's a good
people
approach.
were very nice. Were very very nice.
Yeah, it's
So
really funny to me though to hear you like embarrassed about opening gifts in front of your parents. That's like
God, it's just
so counter to my experience.
oh, if you're just oh man, maybe because I'm an only kid, but I don't like it when all the eyes are on you, and then you have to almost fake a reaction if you don't like the gift. I'm just like, nah, I just can't be doing this. It's like the Breaking Bad scene. I don't know if anybody remembers from Breaking Bad the scene where they go to oh man, I'm gonna forget their names. Gretchen and I can't remember what the guy's name is. The two ex colleagues of Walter White, and they're having this extravagant party, and they one of the presents is like I don't know, like a Fender Caster from Eric Clapton or whoever it is, and then I'm just like, oh my god, this is just like I'm just watching this is like hell on earth. I can't even imagine it. Like you have to participate in this shit. I'm really sorry. I just don't like it at all. So yeah, I think maybe it's a European thing, but we like to be a little bit more sort of discreet about certain things. So there are some people who do like to show off, and there'll be people from the UK and maybe from Spain who do baby showers. That's fine. If
Interesting.
you want to do your thing, go for it. That's fine. It's every couple does it their own way, but I just personally don't like it. So we didn't have baby shower. We have everything that
Hmm.
we more or less need, I think. And there's a couple of things from the shop we still have to pick up, but they're things that she doesn't need right now, so that's fine. Um, so yeah,
Interesting. That's so interesting to me. And like I've looked it up on Wikipedia in the interim here, and it's saying that baby shower commonly associated with the U.S. and Canadian traditions. And I was just like, wow,
Mm,
I didn't realize how cultural that was. This is the fun thing about like talking with people from other cultures is you don't just get an understanding of what their cultures are like, you get an understanding of what your own culture is like.
right, right. And again, I think
Because
they until
until
this
this
moment
conversation,
you
I
didn't
would
know.
not have been like, oh yeah, baby showers, culturally like U.S.
Yeah, yeah. I think again in the UK they're probably becoming more common because we talked about it before. US culture in particular is so pervasive that
Mm,
people would have caught on to it. Um, but yeah, it's just something that I personally don't. I would never, ever, ever, ever gravitate towards that type of thing. Unfortunately, I married somebody who, in this sense, is very like-minded. So I'm like, cool.
hmm.
We're not going to argue about this. This is fine.
Cool.
um,
Cool. And you got everything you needed, so it worked out.
yes, yeah. Well, we think anyway. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. We had to make a bit of a dash to the shop after she was born. It's like we need certain stuff, but we were more or less we were more or less prepared. We spent July doing a lot of that stuff because we were both busy with work until the end of June. So we were
Hmm.
like, we need to by June we have to be ready because she might be very premature, and we have to be ready. And we weren't ready before she was premature. Um, so yeah, we spent a lot of July running to the shop,
Hmm.
buying stuff. I built the crib, all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, but still, July was
Does
a
she have her own? Does she have her own room, or is she with you?
no. She's with us. We kind of were we
Okay.
were pretty sort of clear on that, especially for the first 9 months, year kind of
Hmm.
thing. Especially well now that she's very, 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 very young, she has to be with us
Hmm.
because we have to have someone watching her just in case something happens.
Right.
But no, she down the line she will have her own room. But we're hoping also that's another big thing. We might have to move before that happens, just to have a bit more
Oh
space.
boy.
But if need be, my streaming office will be her bedroom, and that's fine. I will happily sacrifice that. So yeah, she's got a crib. But at the moment, she's actually enjoying because we're staying with my in-laws at the moment. That's where we've been for the last few
Hmm.
weeks. And yeah, so we don't have the crib here. So she's actually been sleeping in the bed, um, like co-sleeping with Mrs. Godsword. So I've been banished. I've been chucked out. That's okay. That's fine. I'll take
Yeah,
it again. I will
that's fine.
happily sacrifice myself for the greater good. For the greater good. Um,
That's right.
so yeah, um, yeah, no, very much like yeah, co-sleeping or being in a crib, in the same room, and then we'll see how she does in due course. If she outgrows that very quickly, or she stays put, we'll have to just kind of play by ear. But while she's so small and she's so dependent, um, it doesn't make sense for her, I don't think, to have her own room. I know there are a lot of couples who they as soon as they find out they're pregnant, they're like, we need to have the nursery and all this sort of thing, right? And they put a lot of effort into decorating the nursery room and stuff. We just haven't gone there yet. Partly because we're living in a rented flat, but also just because we were quite adamant from the beginning. No, she's going to sleep with us for at least the first at least 6-9 months kind of thing. So we don't have to rush to make a decision in
Yeah.
terms of where she's going to sleep because we kind of know it for the meantime. So yeah, um,
Yeah,
so
that's great.
yeah, so yeah, we're actually going to go back to our own flat as of the time of recording tomorrow. So let's see, after co-sleeping in the bed for the last few weeks, will she actually go back into the crib? I guess we'll find
Hmm.
out.
We'll
I
find
guess we'll
out.
find out. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, that's that one.
Nice. So I'm curious, did you like buy any like particular books or do any like was there anywhere in particular that you went for research that you thought was helpful throughout the process, or were you mostly relying on the medical professionals, that sort of thing?
Um, yeah, mostly medical professionals. If they said everything was all right, I was pretty happy to take their word for it. We
Hmm.
were, I think, my wife bought one book, and I think we might be gifted another about the various stages of the pregnancy and then the first few months of the baby's life. So we got them in Catalan and Spanish, and I was actually going to look for an English version, but then I ended up not doing that. Um, we've been using the internet for quite a lot of stuff, maybe too much.
Mm-hmm.
Um, not so much well, a little bit during the pregnancy. We had actually a nice app on the phone which showed you the baby's development and also explained uh, internally what was developing, if it was the lungs or if it was this organ or blah 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 blah. So it's actually really nice
That's
to
pretty
look
cool.
at that. Um, and then you can match it up when you see it on the ultrasound and things. So no, it's actually been more since she's been born because you're just kind of in that sort of state where you're like, oh my god, we've got her. She doesn't have an instruction manual. What on earth are we supposed to
Mm-hmm.
do? Um,
Yep.
is she hungry? Is she tired? What's going on? And then it's just too easy to go. Oh, well, ask Google. Let's see what Google says. But I've kind of losing my mind a little bit with Google because it's been a little bit unreliable. And I think now we're a few weeks in. I think we both are kind of, again quite like-minded that we don't trust our gut enough, and I think at times we just end up now we trust our gut a lot more. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it's just like even like today, like before we started recording, she was being quite fussy and not. She was tired, but she wasn't settling very well, and we both kind of looked at each other and went, "Is she still hungry?" And we gave her a bit more food, and then
Mm.
she was happy. So you
Good.
just kind of after a while you just kind of trust yourself a bit more. But those first few days were just like, what the hell are we doing? What's she doing? What's wrong? We've done everything. We also, I mean, there's a longer story to that. But yeah, you just kind of you're in the dark quite a bit. And obviously then too, like even though you can lean on maybe grandparents for support because they've got that knowledge. If the baby acts differently to how
Mm.
their child acted, that's just not gonna the the experience is not gonna tally. So
Mm-hmm.
from at least what we're being told, unless our parents are looking at their experience through rose tinted glasses, it seems like Elle is quite a bit more work and a bit more active than we were.
Oh
Um,
boy.
but no, all things considered, it could be a lot worse. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's just the big thing that we had real issues with is just in terms of like feeding. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you start reading stuff, especially online, and they always say, "Oh, make sure you don't overfeed," blah 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 blah. And then we were given instructions when we left the hospital. We were given instructions on the side of the formula milk
Mm-hmm.
box, which says this is the quantity that they should be eating, blah blah blah. But
Mm-hmm.
the problem is this doesn't tally, right? Every baby's gonna be slightly different, and it just seems like we've
Right.
got a very hungry baby
Mm-hmm.
who she gets irate very quickly if she's not fed within a very
Mm-hmm.
short window of time. Um, so based upon the numbers, she's probably eating a bit too much. But like, she screams her head off otherwise. So,
Mm-hmm.
and if she's happy and she's content and she sleeps, then what are we gonna do? We're gonna have. So at the end, I've kind of now, unless something really new pops up that I don't know, I've just kind of I'm not even going to touch Google anymore for advice and
Mm-hmm.
just follow my gut a little bit. Um,
Yeah. Well,
Because
nobody else knows your kid for sure.
well, no, that's true. That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Um, so yeah, I probably should have done a bit more reading in advance. Um, but again, hindsight a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's kind of nice because like it's all a very organic learning experience because you're very much
Mm-hmm.
learning in situ. There's no theoretical understanding can help you. You just gotta take it as you see it and then just adapt to it. So yeah, my wife definitely read some more stuff. So it was more during the pregnancy actually, and
Mm-hmm.
certain things, and then advice about what to eat, not to eat. Those got advice from medical professionals, also stuff written in books and things. So yeah, um, yeah, not the most detailed answer, but yeah, I could have
Mm-hmm.
done a lot more. But again, hindsight. Um, as I said before, yeah, the professional, the healthcare professionals we've had looking after us at every stage of the journey have been really, really good. Um,
That's great. That's absolutely what you want. I mean, we're talking about different cultural expectations, right? Like one of the things that this story might be a little bit out of date because it was something that was relayed to me by a teacher who was in charge of like cultural studies at a Japanese university when I was studying in college. And I was studying in college a long time ago now, and the teacher, like the story she was telling, was from a long time ago, even then. So this might not be the case anymore, is basically what I want to preface this with. But she told us a story in the class about how there are sort of different cultural expectations about how you handle pain in Japan versus in the United States.
mhm.
And she talked about a friend of hers who gave birth in the US and gave birth in Japan. And in Japan, the nurses were just like astonished at the amount that the woman was screaming with pain. And they were just like, okay, toughen up, essentially.
Oh wow. Okay.
And it's, to me, that's just like a crazy thing to say to someone who's pregnant.
Right.
But
And giving
yeah,
birth, yes, but yeah, they got a very short temper. You got to be careful what you say. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, we could probably get into that a little bit because obviously there's the big question going into the whole birth process was, to epidural or to not epidural.
Mm,
Um, and my thought on it was always, um, whatever my wife wants, she gets.
mm-hmm,
Because I'm not the one going through it. I had certain
mm-hmm,
other opinions about it. Um, I was probably a little bit more sort of positive that the birth would go well. So I
mm-hmm,
kept trying to be a little bit more sort of positive sense of, oh, let's just see how it goes, kind of thing. And we had to write a birth plan, um,
mm-hmm,
and take it on the day, obviously, and everything. And one of the questions they asked was, what do you want to do about the epidural? And there were like three options. It was like, yes, no, or see how the birth develops and
oh,
or evolves, I should say. And I was always sort of more hedging for the third option. I think, well, let's not keep it in the mind of it's an option and we can use it,
mm-hmm,
but um, because of potentially how the epidural might affect, the actual birthing process, it might make it slower or certain things, maybe.
mm-hmm,
Um, let's just see how it goes, kind of thing. So I was trying to be a bit positive about it, just saying, well, if you need it, I'm not going to step in your way. You can absolutely have it. And obviously, there's a waiting period when you request the epidural. If you request it kind of
mm-hmm,
spontaneously, you don't get it spontaneously. You have to wait almost like 40 minutes for it because they have to get the anaesthetist
mm-hmm,
ready to come and do it, and then you basically have to get wheeled away into a different room, which
mm-hmm,
I didn't realize you don't get the epidural. You're not given it in the dilation box. You have to go to a different room entirely, get the epidural, and then it's like any painkiller, it needs time to take effect. Um,
right.
so you're looking at like 40 minutes. So obviously, with that information, once we found that out, because we went to antenatal class as well, so there was
Mm-hmm,
a midwife there going through theory with us every week for like 10 weeks before the birth. So obviously, there's a certain window of time where it's best to
mm-hmm,
ask for the epidural potentially,
right.
where you don't wait too long and you're past that pain threshold. But again, I'm not the one giving birth. My wife is. If she says she
Mm-hmm,
wants it, she gets it. There's no doubt about that.
mm-hmm,
Um, so I've got a story about that, but I need to sort of backtrack a little bit to sort of explain the
okay.
circumstances that we were in. So basically, um, what happened was we went, for what was basically, it wasn't quite, but more or less, it was the 40-week checkup. It was on the Monday. So after we did our podcast, the next day we had this revision, and we went to the hospital at like 6:30 at night or so, 6:30 in the afternoon, to do this revision.
Mm-hmm,
And we just basically expected we'll do an ultrasound, see if the baby's in the right position. Um, the due date still hadn't passed yet, so they would say, well, we'll program, an induction or whatever X number of days after that date in case she doesn't appear, and we'll see what happens.
mm-hmm,
So we went on to the revision. Um, Long story short, the ultrasound was great. but they weren't very happy with my wife's blood pressure. It was a bit too high.
Oh, oh boy.
So they said, right, um, your blood pressure's been fine during the whole pregnancy, but now it's a bit high. Maybe it's just nerves. We're not sure. Um, but we're going to send you up. So the way the hospital we were in was done was all this was done on the ground floor, but then the maternity ward's up on the fourth floor. So they said, right, we're sending you straight up to the fourth floor. We want to do some tests. We're like, fine. So this is like by the time we did the ultrasound, everything was like 7:30 at night, more or less 7:45. So we got sent up. We were doing tests until about 11 o'clock at night, more or less. It was like a good
Wow.
2 hours blood test and
Wow.
like and hooked up to the blood pressure monitor and whatever.
Hmm.
And basically they came back and said that you have a thing called preeclampsia
Okay.
or preeclampsia. Um,
Hmm.
I don't know a huge amount about it, but it's basically high blood pressure that occurs during pregnancy. Some
Yes.
women can get it during the whole pregnancy, and there's like
Hmm.
certain things they have to do to like manage it and the like. Um, I'm not sure exactly how it can affect the baby, but given the blood pressure of the baby and the mum will be all linked together and stuff, you don't want
Hmm.
these sort of things. So
It can also happen, in case anyone's listening, it can also happen after the baby is delivered, and they need to monitor it after that as well.
okay, well that's true. Yeah, my wife has been monitoring her blood pressure afterwards. It's all fine
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Okay, they're saying
Because
off.
I have a friend who dealt with a scare related to that, and the hospital did not do a great job of handling it. So
Oh
I
dear.
won't relate that story, if because it's really someone else's, but it was something of a mess. So I just want to stress that, like, keep monitoring the blood pressure. That's a potentially very dangerous condition, and you want to be on top of it.
Oh, they're all. Yeah, I'm just reading even just the wiki page, and obviously they're saying there's potential organ damage and liver malfunction and goodness what else. So it's like right. So any sort
Yeah.
of risk is like right. So basically, after like over 2 hours of being hooked up to the monitor and whatever, they came back and went, yeah, you've got this preeclampsia. And we're like, okay, so what does that mean? Do you have, is it a case we're going to go home and then you're going to come back tomorrow and give birth? And they're like, no, you can't go home. You have to stay.
Mm.
And we obviously had gone to the hospital completely ill prepared without the hospital bag. The hospital bag was prepared, but it was sitting in the hallway of our flat because why on earth would we take it to a 40-week general revision and ultrasound?
Hmm.
So then immediately, all the whole process started. They're going to induce the labour, blah 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 blah. So all this is going on.
Hmm.
But the way the induction works is you have to wait like 12 hours for it to start kicking in, and then
Oh wow.
so we had to stay put for the night. Um,
Hmm.
Obviously, neither of us slept because your mind is just churning with various things
Yeah.
and the thoughts of
Hmm.
you're going to go through all of that. Probably better, I would say, than getting it programmed a week in advance and having a whole week to stew. But still, it's still
Hmm.
a shock, and your mind's going, thinking about everything that you're having to go through, and then struggling to sleep. And then at 4 a.m. we get woken up and told
Oh boy.
that my wife has to go and get hooked up again because they have to monitor her blood pressure again to make sure that it's
Hmm.
not, going crazy. So, this time, oh no, let's say both times that she was getting monitored inside the dilation box, even though she wasn't dilating. That was the one room.
Hmm.
They were like, we got space, we'll put you here. You'll be comfortable.
Hmm.
Right. So what happened was we were hooked up at 4 a.m. Both of us sleep deprived, but we're just sitting there waiting for, you know, the cycles to go through and find out when we can go back to the room and try and rest. And obviously there are other women dilating. One in particular was not having a very fun time. Let's just put it that way.
Hmm.
And we obviously could hear everything. Now,
Hmm.
I don't know the specifics of this case, but it seemed like, from what we can deduce from the conversations that were taking place between her and her partner and whatever, were she'd obviously, for whatever reason, and I'm not judging, but for whatever
Hmm.
reason, hadn't asked for any epidural,
Right.
and for whatever reason, maybe it was a difficult dilation, or her pain threshold was low, or whatever reason. Again, I'm not judging at all. Um, but she needed epidural. She suddenly realised she
Hmm.
needed the epidural. But obviously, then there's this process that you have to go through where you have to
Right.
consent, because you have to cut. They literally come in with a form and go, "Do you consent to be given the epidural?" Blah 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 blah. And then she has to get wheeled away, and then she has to come back, and it has to kick in and all this sort of stuff.
Yep.
And we were hearing her going through the contractions without the epidural, and she was suffering so much. And my wife and I were just looking at each other, going, "Oh my god, do we?
Hmm.
You're gonna have to go through that tomorrow? Holy shit!" I could just see my wife's brain just the cogs turning. I was like, "Oh my god, you're gonna get so nervous having to listen to this."
Hmm.
So that was the thing, right? So then the long story short, we went through like an hour and a half of listening to this, and eventually the other patient calmed down, and I assumed they gave birth and everything was fine. Anyway, we went back to the room at like 6 o'clock. Tried to sleep until 9:30 when we got woken up for breakfast. Clearly, obviously, we didn't sleep. That's ridiculous. We
Hmm.
didn't get any sleep at all. And then
Right.
we went into the birth, which we can get into later. But as soon as we went back into the dilation box at like 11 a.m. to start the actual dilation process, as soon as the midwife walked in, my wife was like, "I want the epidural."
Yeah.
she,
Absolutely.
um,
Good for her.
yeah, she did want to be, but the way it panned out was the way we did it was kind of how. Again, I'm not claiming smart ass here or anything, but just the way I kind of expected it would go, where we had part of the dilation without the epidural to get it
Hmm.
going. Um,
Hmm.
and then my wife did really, really well. She went like 4 or 5 hours of dilation without the epidural, and obviously the intensity was increasing during that time,
Hmm.
obviously. But she went for like 4 or 5 hours without epidural, and then got it. And then obviously then she
Wow.
was extremely relaxed. She was like, "Oh, I feel nothing now. This is great." So
Hmm.
yeah, um, but yeah, so but still, it's one of those things, right? It's I feel like again the message I would send is like everyone can do it however they want. I'm not going to judge people if they don't take the epidural. Do take the epidural. I'm not, again, it's not. I'm not,
Right.
but I would just say be open minded to having it
Yeah.
just in case
Yeah.
if shit hits the fan or if just it's really painful or whatever. Just have it ready as a backup. Don't just say no flat out
Hmm.
because you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. You
So
never know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So that was quite a that was quite a sort of rude awakening and so topsy turvy, and we're just like we were sitting in the waiting room for the revision at 6 o'clock that night or half six, whatever time it was, just going, oh, we're really relaxed. Yeah, we're going to give birth soon, but everything's fine. We're going to go home and have dinner, and I can stream Rollercoaster Tycoon in the evening, and tomorrow we were even thinking, oh, tomorrow we could go for a walk or whatever. We had all these plans of what we were going to do, and then so it's like, nope,
Hmm.
you're giving birth tomorrow if you like it or not. So yeah,
Yep.
um, basically then, so that the way, unless you have any specific question, we can quickly go through the birth a little bit. But basically,
Sure. No, go ahead. Yep. I think all of my like preliminary questions have been answered. So.
because again, not sharing many, you can imagine there's a lot of stuff going on, but the dilation period took 12 hours, more or less.
Wow.
Um, duh, probably not quite as long as that. It's a slight exaggeration. Well, yeah, 12 hours is actually probably spot on, actually. Yeah, probably about 12 hours. Um, and the hardest bit for me as the dad was actually the middle portion.
Mm.
The first 4 or 5 hours of dilation, where I was having to actively sort of help my wife, getting through the contractions, massages, or she had the exercise ball and holding her steady and all this sort of stuff. And, it was a very sort of active experience, even though we were just both so sleep deprived. There's
Hmm.
a lot going on. So that, from my perspective, that was very straightforward. The hardest bit for me was then after, once she had the epidural. She was very relaxed, which obviously I was very happy about. But suddenly things slowed down, right? Didn't
Mm.
dilate as fast, and just because then we were just sitting there. I wasn't active. I wasn't on my feet doing blah blah blah. Worrying about it. She was obviously very comfortable, but there's nothing for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the hardest bit because then the sleep deprivation starts kicking in,
Oh yeah.
and it was just mental. Um, so that was the hardest bit. So that was all the way through the afternoon, and then once we started getting towards like pre-late in the day, sort of like 9, 10 o'clock, they're like, right, let's start trying to get this thing. We've hit the 10 centimeter dilation point, which is the critical moment. We're like, right, we can actually start trying to push properly and get this baby out.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, sort of long story short, uh, we tried that and it didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Our baby basically didn't want to leave. She was very
Oh boy.
we keep saying she's very comfortable inside, the queen that she is. She wanted to stay put.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what happened. Again, there's no blame. My wife was trying really hard. For whatever reason, it just wasn't working.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly, a huge 180 then happens at basically 11 o'clock at night, where the doctors were coming in and looking, and they just went, nah, cesarean, we're doing a C-section.
Wow.
And that just comes out of nowhere. And even though in the weeks leading up to the birth, we were kind of we didn't talk about it in a lot of detail, but we did sort of talk in sort of vague terms. We have to be kind of mentally prepared to do a cesarean because you never know
Mm-hmm.
what will happen. And we know people. I mean, I'll say for me, I was personally born by cesarean. I was born by a C-section,
Mm-hmm.
and we know other people and around us who have had C-sections and stuff. But um, yeah, we had heard about it earlier in the day because of the
Mm-hmm.
preeclampsia and everything. They were like, well, see how the dilation's going. We might have to do a C-section. But because the
Yep.
dilation eventually was going really well and it made it to the 10 centimeters point and whatever, I'd kind of pushed the idea of a C-section out of my brain. I just kind of forgot it existed.
Right.
I was at that point, I was like, right, okay, we're going to do a natural birth. This could take
Yeah.
hours potentially, right? We're going to go
Yeah.
really into the early morning of the next day, but I don't care. I'm here for it, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
But then just suddenly, it's
Yeah,
like,
especially with the sleep deprivation, right? I can imagine that getting lost from your head.
right,
Yeah.
right. But then by that point, because there was stuff at that point, because there was a lot of stuff then happening again, um, it was becoming more active again. Then the sleep
Mm-hmm.
deprivation disappeared. But yeah, in terms of me pushing, forgetting the possibility of a C-section, that kind of went out of my brain. But then suddenly
Mm-hmm.
they're like, nah, that's it. We're not risking it anymore. It's not working. We're doing a C-section.
Mm-hmm.
So immediately then we were looking at each other going, okay, how long is that going to take? And they were like, 20 minutes.
Wow.
And then your head just starts spinning because just everything changes so fast. They're immediately, right,
Yeah.
okay. Because I'd already filled out a consent form in case
Mm-hmm.
we did this days before, and I took it to the hospital with us. But in case there's a C-section, as the companion, I was trying to think of the
Mm-hmm.
English translation. As the companion, there are very specific rules I have to follow if there's a C-section.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's quite a strange sort. You can be in the operating theatre, which is again very very strange because normally that doesn't happen.
Mm.
But if they tell you to get the fuck out, you have to leave. You can't talk
Mm-hmm.
too loudly. They tell you where to sit. You can't move. All this sort of stuff, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's all this stuff starts spinning, and they're like, right. They were saying to my wife, right, we have to get you ready for theatre. We're going to wheel you away in 5 minutes. They look at me and go, right, you need to change because I had to get into like surgical scrubs. So I got whisked away to some random like changing room, got into the surgical scrubs, came back. They were really wheeling my wife away to the theatre. And I was like, oh my god, what the hell is going on, right? Um, an hour ago we were sitting in relative comfort, and then you got all this going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, they wheeled my wife away into the operating theatre again because you don't see C-sections normally on media. So I had no idea what to expect, even though it's been described to me by other
Mm-hmm.
people. And then once they were ready, they were like, right, you can come through. So I went through, walk into this operating room, and there's like loads of people. There's like 12 people in here, all doing different
Wow.
things. Um, and the only type of C-section I personally know about is the experience that my mum had, where she had a general anaesthetic. So she was just
Mm-hmm.
completely knocked out during the whole process. But now, in most cases, they don't like do that. So the woman is actually conscious during the entirety of the process, and they just
Wow.
numb the lower body. So it's kind of a it's such a surreal thing. So
I bet.
the woman is lying flat on her back.
Mm-hmm.
She has like a green sort of surgical curtain basically
Mm-hmm.
underneath her chin, so she cannot see beyond it and everything that's
Mm-hmm.
happening down below.
Mm-hmm.
And to make sure that she doesn't move too much, she's got her arms out, sort of perpendicular to her torso, almost like crucifix position, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought they were meant to be tied down, but I looked and they weren't actually. But she was supposed to keep them in that position and like hold them there.
I see.
Um, so she can't see a thing that's happening over there. And then
Mm-hmm.
where I'm sitting, fortunately, because I'm also I'm reasonably tall. I could just see what was going on. You're just like, holy moly! It changes your real perspective on things when you start seeing your soulmate being cut open and all this sort of stuff, right?
Oh
It
yeah.
changes
Oh,
your
I'm sure it
perspective on
does.
everything.
Wow.
And yeah, they weren't lying, even though there was some complications with the C-section. I think because of the way the baby was in a very awkward position, didn't want to leave naturally, but also didn't
Mm.
want to leave by C-section.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, I saw the moment that the baby got lifted out. It's almost something like out of Alien. You just see like this being just being lifted out, right? And it's not pretty
Mm-hmm.
because it's just amniotic fluid
No.
and blood and goodness what else, right? It's quite. Um,
Yeah.
so I saw her first because I was able to see her being lifted out, and I was able to say to my wife, "They've got her. She's fine." And because she wasn't crying either, we was like, "Is she breathing? Is she okay?" But we heard as they were cleaning her, we heard her make a little noise, and she's like, "Oh, she's breathing. She's fine. She's fine."
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, it was just this whirlwind sort of adventure where we had so many twists and turns. It just yeah, and then we had this really sort of
Wow.
lull period in the middle where nothing
Mm-hmm.
happened for so many hours. And it's just crazy. Um, so yeah, they
Yeah,
sort
that
of,
sounds crazy.
but they weren't joking when they said, yeah, yeah. Well, by the time you get into the theater, it'll be like 15 minutes and you're done. It took a little bit longer than that, but pretty much I was holding her, you know, half an hour more or less after they told us you're having a C-section. So
Incredible.
yeah, so it's just yeah crazy. And
Mm-hmm.
obviously, full respect to everybody who goes for a C-section because you've got almost, I mean, not taking it away from people who go through the natural birth, of course, that's tough, but you've got the almost double recovery, right, of
Yeah.
trying to go through the natural process and it doesn't work. I also you're recovering from being pregnant, and then you're having to recover from major surgery in terms of
Yeah.
the C-section.
Hugely invasive surgery. Yeah.
Right,
It's they got to cut sometimes the abdominal muscles, and so you just lose all that core strength that it sets you back. It's crazy.
right. And it's like unlike any other major surgery. If you had any other type of major surgery like that, the hospital like you can't move for X number of days. You have to stay put in this bed. We'll feed you. Don't do anything. Whereas now,
Mm-hmm.
as a mother, you can't do that. They were literally like, I, I, I don't know how many hours it was after the C-section that my wife had to stand, but she stood up. I mean, if I said maybe 6 or 7 hours after the surgery, she was standing up. I would not be surprised if that was the case. She stood up
Wow.
very quickly. She had to. I don't know if it maybe wasn't as quick as that. I think I'm exaggerating slightly, but it was still very quick in comparison. Which is obviously, yeah. I was around. Obviously, I was helping, but baby needed to be attended to in certain ways. Maybe it was a little bit longer. It's probably longer than that. I'm now mixing up the days because everything's just a blur at that point. But maybe it was the next day. Maybe it was like a full like 18 hours or so afterwards. But yeah, it was very very early on that she was able to stand up, and obviously she was just like you could see that she had difficulty walking and she was just like so sore and everything. It's just like good grief. It's very impressive when you see someone go through that. Um, And it was a kind
Yeah.
of interesting thing too, because I think it might be a clinical trial, so it might be something that we might see. But my wife had like the bandage, or no, it's not even a bandage, but like the I don't know what you call it, like the protective gauze across
Mm-hmm.
the incision,
Mm-hmm.
and because it all got stapled up and everything. But she had like a special type of gauze over it, which was connected to a machine. So she had like this
Oh.
little box. Um, think of a box maybe like half the height of your mobile,
Mm-hmm.
kind of that sort of size, right? And thickness, maybe about 3 times the thickness of a mobile, depending on a little bit thicker than that, maybe. So not a very big box, but still was quite weighty.
Right.
And it was connected with a tube to the protective gauze that covered the basically the scar where they did the incision. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember. I should have done research, but again, I've been out all day and I wasn't. I didn't even think about this until on the way home. But it aids the recovery. I think it might actually suck maybe air or humidity or something out of the incision, so it helps it heal better. Something like that. It's something to do with. I'll if I remember, I'll research and I'll put it in the comments. Um,
Nice.
but yeah, it's a this device is to aid the recovery and to allow these things to heal quicker. And I think it's something that they're trialing with C-section patients, but it could be used on lots of other people who have major surgery, especially I guess on
Oh wow.
especially on the torso and stuff. So that was kind of interesting to see, but obviously my wife found it very
Mm-hmm.
frustrating, especially initially because she had cables everywhere. She was hooked up to drips and knows what else, and then having this
Yep.
stupid box that she kept dropping. That's probably the most
Mm.
common sound for the first like 2 or 3 days was her dropping the box, because obviously you have to hook it onto something, but you got nothing really to hook it onto apart from your
Oh
clothes,
man.
and it's just too easy that it unclips and falls off, right? When you're trying
Yeah.
to move anywhere. So
Mm-hmm.
she had it it's battery operated. So after about a week, the battery runs out, and you just take it off, and you're done. You can
Wow.
actually take it off while you're in the shower, in case anyone's interested. You just disconnect it. You press a button to tell it that you're disconnecting it. You disconnect it, and as soon as you come out of the shower, you just plug it back in, and then it keeps going.
Hmm.
So it's a very interesting little device, actually. So it'll be interesting to see
Sounds interesting.
if it's something that will be a common feature or not. But yeah, so yeah, we because of the C-section and also the preeclampsia, we were in the hospital a little bit longer for the recovery after the birth. But understandable, they had to make sure that both wife and baby were doing absolutely fine, and they did. We had a few scares though, because unfortunately Elle actually had a little bit of mild jaundice as we were leaving
Oh
the
no.
hospital. She's going a little bit yellow.
Right.
Um, Something else I've learnt now. I always thought that I always kind of knew that it's interesting how human babies are very underdeveloped compared
Mm-hmm.
to mammal counterparts,
Oh yeah.
which can walk within a few minutes of being
Instantly.
born.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for pure survival. That's the benefit of being, I guess, the having no predators per se. Humans can just take their time over things, but it's the fact that there are so many things, even beyond that, there's so many things about the baby which are so immature or not developed. Like the liver is not mature at all, and it struggles to break down all the certain things it has
Mm.
to, and yeah, it's just, and I didn't even realize that babies don't breathe through their mouths until a few months in. They're always breathing through their nose. They can't breathe through their mouth yet, and goes what else? It's just so much stuff. So yeah, she was going a little bit yellow from jaundice, and they were like, well, she just needs to eat enough and get the toxins, or just get liquid flowing through her system. We're having
Mm-hmm.
some issues though that she wasn't eating enough, and she was just very very hungry.
Oh
So,
wow.
um,
Well, it sounds like she's still very hungry.
well, yeah, but I think that's just because she takes after me. I think so. She has a ravenous, she's a bottomless pit. Sometimes, some days, it just depends. But yeah, so we had 2 really difficult nights in the hospital because she was just crying, 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 and couldn't get her to settle. Um, and yeah, any attempts to kind of feed her, just didn't work, and she was just getting stressed. And obviously, we were just so. I mean, I would just say it, I was sleep deprived.
Yeah.
My wife would have been 10 times, right,
Oh yeah.
in terms of everything that
Mm-hmm.
she went through. So we were just like, what the heck? What do we do, kind of thing, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
we had
Yeah.
we went
Like you really appreciate the value of just a sustained period of sleep when you haven't even been able to get into like REM sleep for more than 5 minutes in the past like 36 hours or something. It's insane.
right, right. So I did manage to get, because we had family members coming in and out during the day. I always took night shift in the hospital, but
Mm-hmm.
then I was able to go back to our flat during the day and organize. Like we had to take more clothes and stuff because our hospital bag was not prepared enough. Um,
Right.
that's probably another good tip for people who have to prepare hospital bags and stuff. The amount of nappies and clothes that you think you'll need, double it,
Mm-hmm.
double it, and then you'll be fine. Um, so I had to go back and pick up that sort of stuff, but it also meant I could go and get a bit of food and also try to sleep for at least like 4 or 5 hours. And even though I was still knackered, it's still
Mm-hmm.
better than nothing. Um, whereas my wife was just running on fumes, pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, we had 2 really tough nights in the hospital. So yeah, basically, yeah, it was just crazy how we went for that revision. Basically on the Monday, uh, we left home at like I don't know 5:45, something like that, and then we didn't make it home until pretty much the same time on the Friday. In terms
Wow.
of both of us walking through the door together,
Mm-hmm.
just crazy how it happened. But yeah, so we had really restless nights in the hospital. But then we went back home and we had 2 really good nights. And we're like, oh, okay, maybe she was just because it was like the hospital's really stressful.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not complaining because
Mm-hmm.
everyone, the pediatricians, the midwives, the nurses, they're all incredible, but it is a bit it's a bit disorientating for us
Mm-hmm.
and also the baby because you've got people coming in, goodness knows
Yep.
what time of the day, checking on the baby, checking on mom, blah blah blah, and you get no respite from it. You just get no peace. So we're
Yeah.
like,
I mean, there's constant sounds even when people aren't coming in.
well, that too, right? And you've also got a whole corridor of other babies crying and goodness what else. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so once we're back home, we're like, oh, okay, it's just us three. We can just relax a little bit, less stress. We're in our comfortable environment. We can do stuff. We had 2 really good nights with her, but then she had basically 10 days, 2 weeks of really bad nights, terrible nights. We had one night she slept all the way
Oof.
through. All the other nights were just horrific in terms
Mm-hmm.
of just inconsolable crying for 4 hours straight
Yeah.
with no
Mm.
respite at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and we tried to do it where I was like, because I'm quite a night owl anyway. I don't, especially since I wasn't working, I was on paternity leave. I was like, I don't care. I was like saying to my wife, just go to bed. It's fine. I'll look after her during the night. But just motherly instinct, the minute the baby starts crying, wife would come in and like, what's going on? Um, but yeah, we thought it was maybe colic. We actually went to the hospital one night just because
Mm-hmm.
we were really stressed about it. We had a couple of other nights we were going to go to the hospital, but by the time we took her out of the flat into the car and started driving to the hospital, she calmed down.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, okay. But
Well, that's definitely a classic trick. Start driving babies around.
yeah,
They'll calm down and go to sleep.
and she is very calm in the car normally, but we're just like,
Yeah.
this is not a good long term solution.
No.
Can't have me driving around at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's just asking for trouble.
Right.
So
Yeah. No, I wasn't saying it as a long-term solution. I was just observing. That's
yeah,
that's a trick that's pretty well known.
yeah, it's interesting. I mean, again, as an adult, I sleep very well in cars most of the time. So yeah, it might just be a, but yeah, she's relaxed for a very lot. So we thought it was colic. Um, Now again, we're talking about it with hindsight and learning about her signals and everything. I think she was just really hungry. And
Mm-hmm.
again, we kind of left the hospital, and with the formula milk, we were given, like day one, she should have this amount every 2 or 3 hours. This amount, and then second
Mm-hmm.
day, third day, and you see it increasing. But the problem is, it, every baby's going to be different, and this is just an
Yeah.
average. And they just say now it's the phrase they use in Spanish is a demanda, on demand.
Mm.
If the
Mm-hmm.
baby's hungry, give it more food. Um,
Yep.
that was kind of what I was talking about before. Like we thought, or with the research we'd done, I thought she was getting some sort of colic or upset stomach or whatever it was because she was being overfed.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned probably now in hindsight, it looks like she was being underfed.
Yeah. Maybe the opposite.
Right.
Wow.
And all she needed was just an extra 10 milliliters, and she would have gone to sleep. But because she didn't get it, she was
Mm-hmm.
just screaming for like 3, 4 hours nonstop. Or she would go to sleep, and then she would kick herself awake 15 minutes later and go, "I'm still hungry," and then
Mm-hmm.
all hell breaks loose. So I think again that's where I was saying like we can trust our instincts a bit more now. Again,
Yep.
we'll have to have some pediatrician appointments where we look at her weight and we see is she gaining weight too quickly. But we honestly kind of reached the conclusion together, kind of, after a while, it's just a fed baby is a happy baby. There's the question about
Mm-hmm.
do we breastfeed or do we do formula? We went into it wanting to do breastfeeding. It didn't work. So there's
Mm-hmm.
no point putting, again, not judging one way or the other how people do it, but
Right.
there was no point putting excessive stress on both mum and baby if this is not working. Let's do
Mm-hmm.
formula. She was drinking the formula and then she was sleeping well. Right, that's the solution. We're going to do that. Um, so that's just, it's worked for us. We're just going to do it that way.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I mean, everyone can have their own opinions about it, but I was exclusively formula fed. So is my wife. We've turned out okay.
Yeah.
So there's this second option that, relieves the pressure from the mum. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and also means then I can be more active in terms of feeding and stuff as well, which is very helpful. So and also seeing how much appetite our daughter now has, maybe a good thing that we're doing formula, because otherwise
Yeah.
it'd be a lot of work for the mum. But
Mm-hmm.
again, everyone's going to do it differently, and I'm not judging one way or the other. It's just it worked for us, so we're just like, right, we're going to do it this way. Um,
Yeah. There's a saying that they used to have on the JET program that I think could apply to a lot of parenting situations as well, which is every situation is different.
yes, precisely. You just have
Yeah.
to adapt to them because just
Mm-hmm.
otherwise, there's not a hard and fast rule. So yeah, we've been feeding a formula, and you know, especially after those 2 weeks where we came back to my in-laws, partly because yeah, my wife was just so sleep deprived again. She, and just worry as well. During the day, Elle was doing great. I think it's maybe because during the day we were giving her enough food, but it's just I think at night, maybe because of her cycle or whatever, she just needs that little. She needs extra at night, and then she'll sleep. But just yeah, because we were following the rules too strictly, or we didn't trust our judgment, or we were also trying to learn her hunger cues because
Yep.
babies do have ways of showing it. But then I've read a lot of cues online. I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
our baby doesn't do that.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
um, again, now we've just kind of learned. Oh right, she's making that face. She's hungry. Right, let's go and get the bottle and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So we moved in to the in-laws just to sort of relieve the pressure a little bit from my wife because she was really sort of stressing out about it. And now we've had a few weeks. How many weeks? Maybe like 4 or 5 weeks actually. 4 weeks I think, and we're doing much better. Elle was sleeping through the night really really well. She might wake up 3, 4 a.m. maybe
Mm-hmm.
5 a.m. to be fed, and then she normally goes back to sleep until about 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes she sleeps all the way through. She had one night a couple of nights
Wow.
ago where this is more than once that this has happened. She's eaten at like 10 o'clock, 9, 10 o'clock, and then she's slept all the way through until like 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning
Wow.
without waking. So we're like, okay, obviously we have to go back to our own flat and different environment. Let's see if she can do it, and also maybe potentially being in the crib. Let's see what happens. But
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, she doesn't have a problem sleeping. Sleeping's
Yeah.
not the issue.
Sometimes you don't even have to change the environment. Sometimes I think it's called a sleep regression or something like that. I know there can't remember if this was a friend or a family member, but they had a kid and the baby was, routinely up every 3 hours, right? Just would not sleep for any length of time. And finally they got to the point where the baby would sleep through the night. And then they went like that for like I forget exactly how long, but some extended period where the baby was sleeping through the night. And all of a sudden went back to the like up every 3 hours schedule.
Right.
Like no discernible reason, but it's like, oh, we finally thought we were done with that, and now it's back. So hopefully that doesn't happen to you. But
We'll have to see.
it's just to reinforce the idea, right? Every baby is different.
Right, right. And goodness knows what if they're going through teething or growth spurts or whatever, right? They might wake up more
Hmm.
often or not. So yeah, we're just gonna I guess for the first or especially the first 3 6 months anything's up for grabs. So
Hmm.
we'll just take it as it comes. So yeah, that's kind of been it more or less in terms of things we're getting used to. And yeah, we're trying to, especially with me being on maternity leave, we're taking advantage of going out in the car quite a bit, going on little trips, and just so we're
Nice.
not just cooped up in the flat all the time. So
That's great. I have just out of curiosity here, how are you finding the experience of having paternity leave?
great. Um, I'm going back to work pretty soon. Best when the podcast comes out, it'll actually be the next day I'm going back to work. That'll
Oh,
be my
there you
first day
go.
back to work. Um,
So how long will it have been in total?
I think best part of 8 calendar weeks. I think.
That's incredible.
Um, so the way it works in Spain, Spain is very generous compared to the UK. I'll say that much, especially for the paternity side. So both the mother and the father
Hmm.
get 6 weeks, which is called obligatory. So that means
Hmm.
unless there's a very specific reason, like if you're self-employed or you're like a farmer or something, you can't take the time off. You got 6 weeks,
Hmm.
which by law you have to take from a worker's perspective, but also from the company's perspective. So, and that's both mum and dad. Sometimes in some countries it's shared. If the mother takes three, then the dad can only take three. Nope, it's like nope, 6 weeks. So we had
Excellent.
6 weeks simultaneously being off. Then I think it's now actually increased. It's now 10 or 11 weeks, depending on when your baby was born. I think for us it's 11 weeks of what is called voluntary maternity or paternity leave. But from
Hmm.
the way I understand it, it's voluntary from the perspective of the parent.
Hmm.
If the parent says that they want a time off, I don't think their work can turn around and tell them no,
Hmm.
unless it's like a very specific circumstance, but I'm not too certain. So yeah, so obviously I've dipped into a little bit of that time, but the good thing is that time does not have to be taken simultaneously,
Oh,
and
nice.
it can be up until the age of 1, so you don't have to take it
Wow.
immediately. Um, so I could just suddenly decide, F it, I'm going to take 4 weeks off on maternity leave in May or something.
Hmm.
Assuming, obviously, it's a bit tricky because I've changed work, so it's a little bit complicated in terms of negotiating and stuff. Because obviously, I wasn't under
Hmm.
contract when I was with the paternity leave. But you know, in theory, you could do that sort of stuff.
Right. Well, and also there's just emergencies, right? Things happen, and
Right.
sometimes you have to be there. And
Exactly.
I mean, imagine having to take your own personal leave to cover these sorts of things. What would how would things have been for you if you couldn't be there for these first 2 months and had to be going into work? It's
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. If you were in a system where you had to do it, you would just do it. But yeah, it'd be pretty. Obviously, I would have missed out on a lot of stuff not being there, but
yeah,
also just
yeah. I mean, obviously
being
they do it, right?
around.
They do it here, and
Mm,
I just feel like you're you're bringing a baby, a new life into this world. Take the time off,
yeah,
be with them,
yeah,
support your family. It's too much to put on one person, and not everybody is going to have grandma and grandpa around to help out. It's just
right.
it
Because if
bothers me that paternity leave is treated as such a joke. In at least my experience of American culture.
yeah, no, well, in the UK it's the same. If I'm not mistaken, UK only has 2 weeks of paternity leave.
Wow.
I do know of people who've been able to negotiate better paternity leave, um,
Mm,
but it has to be privately through the company you work for.
right. Yeah, and I mean there are some cases here where like they'll give you paternity leave on paper, but I mean if you take it, that's a huge taboo, and
Right,
it's
and
just not.
that's nah.
I do not vibe with that at all.
No, me neither. I think it just should be that really the time should be as high as maximum as possible, and really mother and father should get equal time.
Mhm.
If it was like a huge number of weeks, you know what I mean? If I got 17 weeks, that's like 4 months if you take it all in one
Yeah.
block. And then if they said, all right, the mother gets 6 months, I'm not going to sit there and really complain too much, right? Because it's 4 months is
Hmm.
still a very long time. But like 2 weeks or a
Yeah.
week, it's like, that's nothing. You're still recovering from
Right.
the birth. You're not even thinking
Hmm.
about being a parent and,
Yeah. The
experiencing all the
mother's still
stuff.
recovering from the surgery, probably.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and then suddenly imagine like, oh, I'm off to work now. Bye. Right. Especially
Yeah.
as you said, if I mean we're very lucky. I got my in-laws nearby, so they can help out. But if if you don't have your in-laws, or if you live across country from them, and they're not around, what what are you gonna do? Or depending on
Hmm.
what age they are, they might be of age where they're working still or whatever. So what are you gonna do? I mean, you have to eventually you just have to get round it, but it's not great. It shouldn't be that way.
Right.
So yeah, it's something that I'm not taking for granted at all, and it's like I'm really excited about going into work, especially since it's a new
Hmm.
job, just over a week's time. But at the same time, there's a part of me went, I should have asked for more initial paternity leave, just in
Mm.
case I don't get any more later. I should have asked for an extra week. um, Especially now we're starting to get to grips with it. It's like we got a little bit of a rhythm going, but
Hmm.
we'll see. I mean, as I said, I'm going to be back home by 6 o'clock every night. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
not,
there is that.
yeah, I'm not missing everything. I'll still be about for quite a lot of stuff, but
Hmm.
and obviously the weekends no work, so that's also going to help out a lot too. But
Hmm.
yeah, I mean every country does it differently. I know in Portugal, I think it's even more generous. I think it's like you can take up to 180 days, and I think it might be both parents can do that. Um,
Wow.
in Spain, the way it's done, if you've got a single parent for whatever reason, if as long as they can prove it's a single parent, they get basically double the leave.
Oh, nice.
It's just automatically nope, right? You get 34 weeks or whatever it is, and it's just yeah, that's it. If I remember correctly, I'm more than sure I saw that it was double. So yeah. It's in that sense it's very good. And there's also you can take extra time off too for feeding purposes and all this sort of stuff. There's a lot of extra stuff you can do.
Hmm.
And also now, I don't know, again, depends on what country you're in, but maybe a lot of countries do this, but Spain has a slight tax rebate for parents.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if it's under the age of 18 or if it's under the age of 6 or whatever, there's a certain age bracket, but yeah,
Hmm.
if you've got a young child at least, then yeah, you've got a slight tax rebate and all this stuff, so yeah. But I'm kind of like, again, slightly political viewing and potentially very, left wing view of mine, but I feel um, a lot more governments are going to have to do this in terms of thinking about extending maternity leave, giving more sort of financial incentives, because otherwise we're already facing a birth rate. I was going to say issue, but I think maybe catastrophe might be a slightly closer way of describing it. Um,
Wow.
and if it's not fixed, we're going to have some really big questions to answer in the next
Hmm.
generation or two to come. Um,
Yeah. I mean, Japan's staring down the barrel of that right now.
right, right.
They've been having declining birth rates just constantly for decades now.
Do you know the replacement rate or the birth rate? Or
Let
like,
me look it up. I know it's been consistently going down. I don't know what it is. Let me look it up. Let's just search for Japan birth rate here.
I guess it's more it's like the number of births per woman is kind of the number that you want.
Right. All right. Japan birth replacement rate. Uh, oh yeah, right at the start of the year, Japan's annual births fall to record low. Let's see what that record low is. If I can access this article.
Well, in Spain, so the replacement rate that you need is 2.1 children per woman.
Right.
Right.
That's just a general replacement rate
Gen-
that you need.
yeah. Spain is at 1.12, so it's just above half. But let's, for sake of argument, it's half of what it should be.
Okay. So Japan, it's 1.15. It was 1.15 in 2024,
Right, so it's pretty much
and
identical
it
to Spain.
went down from 1.2, and the downtrend has been going on. Like it's where was this earlier in the article here? Um, 16th straight year of decline in births in Japan.
Right, UK is
So
slightly further ahead. It's 1.5, so it's not as bad, but it's getting there. What about South Korea? Because I know they're the one which is going to be the first to 0.75.
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's a thing that I think a lot of commentators and just people who are in positions of power are just not really talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Again, it's a real bugbear of mine, pet peeve. Just not a lot of long-term decision making, but
Mm-hmm.
we need to be talking about this because it's going to really affect, how the economy is going to function, how you're going to pay for things like pensions and the like, but also just in terms of demographically, how
Yeah.
societies are going to change. And again, without going too deep into politics and stuff, but in Europe, I won't speak for any other country, but I know in Europe there's a bit of a anti-migrant sentiment in
Mm-hmm.
certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
Like some of it might be a little bit blown out of proportion, as per the press. Some of it might not be. Anti-migration policies are on the rise. That is definitely true. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is, in order to fix, this demographic, um, it's not surplus. What's the opposite of a surplus? Deficiency.
Oh, deficiency, I guess.
Right,
Yeah.
because you're not gonna have you haven't got enough working population, to, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the question is going to be, where does that working population come from?
Mm-hmm.
You either have to increase the birth rate dramatically, and that's going to take time to kick in, or you need to rely on a migrant population from countries whose population is still increasing. It'd be
Right.
plateauing, so you're looking at, Southeast Asia and
Mm-hmm.
Africa,
Yep.
and then that raises a lot of then questions about, demographic change and, you know uh, tolerance towards migrants and blah 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 blah, blah, lots of different things. And it feels
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of people who complain about all, migration levels. Even like today, the UK is like trying to find ways to target migration, and same in Spain. I'm just like, yeah, but you're not. We're not talking about the elephant in the. There's an elephant in the room here that we're not talking about, which is we need migrant workers. Otherwise, the shit's going to hit the fan down the line, and
Mm-hmm.
people aren't willing to talk about that, and it's a real issue. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not telling you what the solution is. I don't mind what the solution is one way or the other, but somebody has to sit there and make a decision about how we're going to fix this problem. Um, and also then trying to think about how tech and AI can build into this. Again, it's a whole argument being, well, tech is is increased production, but we're still working just as much and goodness what else, right? So it's just there's so many factors coming into this, but
Yeah. It's absolutely a complex issue for sure. I personally like I've always been a little bit wary of the population is going to like people will talk about the population decline in like more built up countries as if the population is eventually going to fall to zero. And because that's the flip side of the coin, right? You're talking about how a lot of people don't talk about the declining birth rates and the issue with the replacement rate. But I feel like the other side of the coin is people who are running around being like, all these like our quote unquote race is dying out, and I'm just like, well, I'm
right,
not worried about that at all.
right, yeah.
But
But
um,
it's also just like it's also language, right? 'Cause you hear that a lot of the time about them talking
yes.
about not being the majority. It was like, well, it depends on what you mean by not being the majority, right? And all this sort of
Hmm.
stuff. And it's just, yeah, it's yeah. you're gonna, yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, yeah. So like, I feel like at some point, birth rates, I don't think are going to fall to zero. Barring an actual catastrophe that causes them to do so, right?
sure.
And I feel like, it could make things pretty like unstable and terrible for a while you get the sort of population adjustment to the all the various shifts that are happening in society. And that could be unpleasant. And there are unpleasant aspects of it, right? Like, I certainly understand not wanting your culture to disappear, but at the same time, there's, you have to, again, it's a really complex issue. And to try and ignore it or oversimplify it or whatever, like, not necessarily the best approach.
Right. Again, it's just, I feel the main issue is just, it's not even just with this. There's so many other things too. Just a complete lack of willingness to for politicians. I'm going to say on both sides of the spectrum, because it's going to have to be something that has to be a consensus. You
Yeah.
need to have long-term planning
Yeah.
because it's just
And I feel like
nobody's
it's so hard to even have a political conversation these days.
right, right.
And I mean, apologies for anyone who's listening to this podcast to get away from politics, because certainly I think there's value in being able to do that. And normally I try and steer keeping you company a little bit, away from these sorts of issues. I'm not quite sure how we got here, but I do sort of lament the great divide that has developed, certainly in the US, and I'm sure it's getting worse and worse every day in the rest of the world.
Yeah, definitely. Europe's seeing it. I'd say Europe is behind America in that
Yeah.
sense, but even in the UK, I'm looking at certain stuff and I'm just like, what on earth is going on? It's not as extreme, but it's still just like, what is going on? Just and
Hmm.
again, it just erodes. I mean, I'm not saying that keeping you company should be a political space, but we should be able to talk about politics freely because it affects
Hmm.
everything. But the
Yeah,
fact
it
that
does.
we, in general day-to-day conversation, we can't because there's just too much division even within our own families, or goodness what else, right?
Hmm.
That and it results in a complete inability for a lot of countries to actually plan long term because everybody's just thinking about, oh, how do I win power in 5 years' time? It's like, no, that's not good enough.
Right.
That's not good enough. You have to be willing to stand up there and say, I'm going to implement a policy because it's the right policy for our country. It's going to, we're not going to see the benefit of this policy until 20 or 30 years from now. And I'm just
Hmm.
going to have to accept that fact, right? But nobody's
Hmm.
willing to do that because they're just so worried about short-term gains, and it's just not doing it. Nothing's been done. It's all
Yeah.
paper,
Yeah.
plaster over the cracks kind of thing. But
Hmm.
you don't actually fix the problem, and that's the real issue, right?
Yeah.
Bugbear of
Agreed.
mine.
Completely.
So
Yeah.
I don't know how we got onto that topic either. I don't know how we got there. How did that come about?
Birth rates, I guess.
Yeah,
So
but then how did that come about? How did we talk about birth rates? I know we're talking about giving
I don't
birth,
know.
but there must be another leap. Oh, no, whatever. Oh, well, yeah,
I've
paternity
lost
leave.
it.
Oh, paternity leave, right, to try and
Oh, there
encourage
you go.
birth
There you
rate
go.
increases
Yeah.
and stuff. Yeah, yeah. That's kind of the thing. I
Yeah.
feel like
Well,
you can have people
I
who
do think.
always have
Go ahead.
kids. I was going to say you can have a certain percentage of the population who, for what, you know, doesn't matter what the circumstances, they'll never have kids. And then there'll be also another section of the population where it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, they'll always have kids.
Hmm.
It's the catchment group in the middle which you've got to try to get the people who are on the fence, and they're like, well, economically, are we in a good position? Is the world in a good state right now? Is it going to be peaceful? All this sort of stuff. They're the ones where you need to catch them and go, no, potentially having kids is going to be a good thing, but we'll encourage you with, monetary incentives or more paternity leave or hopefully investing in other stuff like education and healthcare. So you're going to bring your children into, you know, a more stable environment or goodness what else, right? So, yeah, but
Right.
that's again,
Yeah. The biggest fix, right, is changing society, and that's why this becomes political.
right, right. Yeah, good luck changing society. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So
it's so hard to do, and I think that's why you see such a big focus on short-term solutions because I mean, how do you enact that sort of cultural social change? It happens, but how do you like plan for it
right,
and enact it? It's very difficult.
right. You need to have a certain political will where the vast, 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 vast majority of the population and also the political class are on board with something. But the problem is now
Hmm.
the centre's kind of evaporated and everyone's just been
Right.
pushed to the edge.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just there's no consensus anymore on certain. I mean, there are consensus on certain things. I think a lot of it is on the two extremes. There are a lot of people who have the same concerns about their country,
Right.
but they view the solution as being two very different things.
Very different
That's
things.
the
Yes,
hard
true.
bit. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, background
Yeah.
to my stuff. But yeah, so
Right.
we're
So
going to grips.
one more
Yes.
question that I had for you that you sort of touched on briefly earlier in our conversation was talking about sort of your developing consciousness as a father. And I wanted to ask you about what that process has been like, just sort of as a general trend throughout from when you first found out to now that you've had baby L in the world for a little over a month or whatever it is.
Yeah, a month and a half.
There you
Yeah.
go.
I mean, I mean, I might be exaggerating slightly, but I feel, for me personally, before knowing I was going to be a dad, I had basically zero paternal instinct at all.
Hmm.
Um, I don't mind sharing this, but I don't mean it in such a blunt way, but I feel like I'm only being a father because my wife wants kids. But I mean that I don't
Hmm.
mean that in a sense I was coerced into it. I don't want anyone to think that. What I mean by that is I made a very clear choice that when I married her, I knew kids were going to be a part of our future, and I 100% signed up to that. But if I
Hmm.
had been with a different person who was maybe not so inclined to have kids, I wouldn't have pushed the issue. I don't
Hmm.
feel like it, I don't feel like it was like a destiny of mine or something to be a dad, right?
Right.
But now that it's happened, I wouldn't change it. And
Mm.
there's no regrets anyway, but there's zero regrets. And I'm like 100% like really, I want to be invested as possible in, being very active as a dad. Um, Obviously during the pregnancy, there wasn't too much I could do apart from obviously being attentive and helping Mrs. Gottsell when she needed help and making sure I was at the
Hmm.
appointments and stuff. It was quite good when the pregnancy was more developed and baby L was kicking inside the womb, and so meant I could then actually, and the tummy was a bit bigger, so I was able to talk to her and sort
Hmm.
of touch the tummy, and I'd feel her kicking back at me and things. So that was really nice.
Hmm.
It was actually quite funny when she was born. She didn't weigh very much. She
Hmm.
was within normal weight. She was healthy, but relatively speaking, she was at the lower end of the normal weight scale. But she had
Hmm.
very long limbs, and I was like, well, that explains all the rib kicking. It
Yep.
explains a lot, and she's very strong. She's not for someone who. I mean, that's another thing I didn't realize. Underestimate how strong a baby can be. I know there's certain parts of their body which are not very strong, like the neck muscles and stuff. But in terms
Hmm.
of the legs and arms, oh my god, she can
Wow.
kick. She can kick.
Wow.
So yeah, don't underestimate the strength of a baby. But yeah, like zero paternal instinct. You know, the last time I was around young kids would have been when I was a young kid,
Hmm.
because I'm an only child. So I've got no nephews and nieces, which I've been around and looked after or anything. None of
Hmm.
my. I think I'm the first out of the friend groups I've got. I think I'm the first who I'm in like close contact with. I'm the first to have a kid.
Hmm.
So all the others, or if there are any other people, their kids are much older, so that that wouldn't be the same. So I've not been around babies or really young kids at any sort of point in my life apart from when I was a young kid myself. So Unlike my wife, who, even if she doesn't have any brothers and sisters, she had younger cousins that she would
Hmm.
kind of look after a bit, and she saw them growing up and held them as a baby and blah blah blah. So she was a more sort of, as soon as I saw, I kind of met her and got to know her a bit better. I was like, yeah, you're going to be a good mum. I can already tell you've got that sort of instinct for it. Um,
Hmm.
but like as soon as, especially as soon as Elle was born, I don't know where this paternal instinct just suddenly kicked in. I'm like, I kind of want to be around her all the time. I'm very happy just to sit there and cuddle her or hold her. I like even today we went out and for whatever reason she was in the pram and she was being a bit fussy and I was like, right, just give it to me, and I pick her up and I carry her and off we go and she's happy. So yeah, it's I don't know where this has come from, but I think when it's your own kid it's different. It's just something
Hmm.
clicks in your brain and goes, well, this little one is 100% dependent on you, so you're gonna have to step up to the plate because nobody else is gonna do
Hmm.
it. So I think just something in your brain just clicks a little bit. Um, so yeah, it's still obviously evolving because obviously it's been a huge sort of change in my life, and obviously the routine I had prior to her coming along was so different to what it is now. So it's still a bit hard to sort of adjust to that.
Hmm.
Try and have a little bit of downtime for me, just to sort of also disconnect from being a dad for a bit and just go, right, I'll just do something different. Because I've been doing some different stuff. Like, yeah, obviously streaming's out the question, but I've been listening to some different music when we be in the car, so that's nice to connect to different things with that and things. So, and just you can just switch your brain off just for a little bit. Um, but yeah, it's really nice that it's felt very natural. I thought there'd be this huge adjustment period in the sense of being around her, but
Hmm.
there's no problem with that. I'm just like, dived into the deep end. It's fine. Changing nappies, no problem. The first one was a bit problematic because in the hospital, and the pediatricians had just walked in. They had to weigh her, so she had to be completely naked for that. And then they left her on the changing table. And I must have turned round to my wife, who was still in bed at the time, so that probably at that point she wasn't walking yet, or she was taking a rest anyway. I was like, oh, where are the new nappies? And I turned round, and Elle had proceeded to, she'd peed all over the changing table. I was like, well, great, so I'm going to have to deal with this now. Um,
Yep.
Especially because I think the first couple of days we came back after the hospital, she was actually very calm at night. So it was really an enjoyable experience, and Mrs. Scottswell could get a bit of sleep. And I was with her for quite a lot of the night, and she was so calm, and I'd feed her, and she would instantly pee or poo or whatever. I'm like, right, let's go and change her. And I was changing nappies, and it's like, yeah, this is easy, blah blah blah. It's, right, it's difficult. It depends on her mood, but I think because we bonded very quickly, I once we got through those couple of days in the hospital, we had a couple of really good days at home where I felt like
Hmm.
I bonded quite a lot with her, even though obviously she's still like learning who everybody is and whatever.
Hmm.
It also just helps, like, when she's not irritable because she's hungry. She's a very, again, her personality hasn't really fully developed, but she seems to be quite sociable. I suppose I've got the Spanish words now, mimosa, like sort of affectionate child. Again, she's smiling already, but it's not really smiling because it's a reflex. It's not her socially smiling, but
Hmm.
she seems to give off that kind of vibe that she's going to be a smiley, talkative kind. She's already kind of giving us the last couple of days quite a lot of like baby noises. She was quite silent
Hmm.
initially, but now she's giving quite a lot of baby noises to us. So she's already giving that vibe that she's going to be maybe a little bit cheeky. Cause she's clever. She knows she can get away with certain things already, which is certain things she's done. But
Mm.
she's she seems to be giving off that vibe that she's going to be sociable and smiley and amicable and things. So it's sort of like, okay, I can get on with you. It's just the problem is just when she starts crying for no obvious reason. It's like, what's the problem? You've been fed. You got a clean nappy. What's the problem? um, but she's also adapting to lots of different stuff. So it's just, yeah, it's hard for her too, because she's been cozy for the last 9 months, and now suddenly she's got all these new stimuli and goodness what else that she has to try and get her head around. So, but no,
Mm-hmm.
it's been really nice. So yeah, we'll see how it sort of evolves over time. But I'm just really happy there was no like really awkward period of time where I was like, how do I hold her? How do I do this? I was just like, right, just it just happened kind of naturally. So
That's great.
so that's I'm very happy. So yeah, wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't if you said to me, oh, you could go back a month and change it. I'll be like, no, don't do that. Very happy where we are. So
Awesome.
there you go. So we'll see. Hopefully she'll keep blossoming. She's hit all our milestones so far, so hopefully she'll keep doing that. And yeah, it's just nice actually now from even day to day, you know, we feel her gaining weight. We see her reacting more to us and holding like really high contrast images in front of her, and she follows it with her eyes and stuff and talking. I say talking like baby noises to us, and you see that progress day to
Yep.
day. So it's really,
Mm-hmm.
really nice to see. So yeah, it makes it all very worthwhile. You kind of forget about the hard stuff, the night where she doesn't sleep very well, or she cries for an hour or something. You kind of forget about that very quickly when you have a really nice interaction with her. So
Mm-hmm.
um, you don't really dwell on the bad stuff. That's really, so in that sense, it's really nice.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, we'll have to see what happens
We'll have to see.
down the line. But yeah, at the moment, yeah, we're very happy with
Got a
her.
whole life
Yeah,
to look
exactly.
forward
Yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah. Can't get rid of her now.
Yeah.
She's. I think it's just the whole kind of adjustment to like you're with your life partner, especially with us because we had quite a long relationship. Because we had a distance relationship, and goodness what else. So we had
Mm-hmm.
so long. It was just us two,
Mm-hmm.
and now we're never going to be two again. It's always three.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's that, yeah, that sort of recalibration also for us, right? We need to try to we put so much attention onto her as the baby, which we have
Mm-hmm.
to, but we have to remember that there's also the third person, the
Mm-hmm.
partner that we have to also
Yep.
pay attention to. So yes, it gets a huge readjustment sort of adjustment for us,
Oh, I bet.
but one we wanted and one that we're enjoying. So yeah, we're very happy. So
That's great.
it's
I'm
all
so
good.
glad to hear it.
It's all good. So,
Fantastic.
so that's pretty much been me, apart from obviously Fear of Dracula has been crazy, but I've streamed some games, but not many. You've probably heard quite a bit of the news through Strider, because Strider's doing very well,
He is.
extremely well. He's top of the league as of the day of recording. Um,
Mm-hmm. Currently undefeated.
yeah, very, very good stuff. Very good stuff. We'll see
Yeah.
how long that lasts, but yeah.
We'll see.
So that's pretty much been me. There's been nothing else of note, really. And obviously, in terms of job, new job is good, but also I won't spill a lot of details about that on here just to keep a bit of privacy, as I hear thunder and lightning outside.
Oh
What's been
boy.
happening in a you've got some big news too. You've had quite a busy month yourself.
Well, nowhere near as big. I've been planning a vacation to Japan, my first trip back since the before the pandemic. So,
Whoa!
yep, I'm super excited. The plan was to go back, once a year for basically the rest of time as long as I could manage it, and I stuck to that schedule pretty well right up until there was a global pandemic everywhere, and we couldn't do that. And from that point on, it was just a question of okay, what now? And yeah, now it's back on the table. It only took me 6 years. Theoretically, I could have gone back sooner, but practically it wasn't really possible. So I'm very excited to get back, and a lot of the trip is going to be visiting friends who I have over there. One of whom has like I met him in Japan. He moved back to the States for a while. Now he's back in Japan. So it's going to be good to actually see him because when he moved to the US, he wasn't anywhere that close to me. So
Fantastic.
uh, funnily enough, like I met him in Japan. I think I saw him maybe on a handful of occasions in person in the US, and now I'm gonna go back to Japan and see him again. So it's kind of funny, but yeah,
Brilliant. And obviously, the big question on everybody's lips: are you going to be walking the length of the country again?
Not this time. I couldn't
Oh
afford the
shucks.
3 months. Couldn't afford the 3 months. But I did afford a little over 2 weeks, so it's gonna be good.
Very good. Very good.
Hmm.
And what do you have planned in terms of getting through the long haul flights that you have to deal with? Do you have editing of your series to do while on the plane, or can you take a
Oh,
bit
I'm
of
not gonna do that on
chill?
the plane. I might do that after I land in the country if I need to. I hope I don't need to. I'm trying to schedule everything in advance so that stuff will just come out on my YouTube channel. But the editing has been more intensive than I thought it would be, and I'm a little bit behind schedule. I'm hoping I can, catch up and make it, but we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. As for what I'm going to do on the plane, my like I am one of the few people who even like I get motion sick pretty much everywhere. I mean, you'd think that might be another reason why I go back and forth on roller coasters so much. It's because I am prone to motion sickness. But I even get sick on airplanes. And it like if I look down on that flight, it doesn't matter if I'm sitting near a window or not. I don't know what it is because in theory, like the idea behind motion sickness is like you can't reconcile the weirdness of stuff moving like past your eyes while you're seemingly stationary.
Hmm.
And if that were true, you'd think that like if I just don't look out a window or something, it wouldn't matter positionally where I look in a plane. No, if I look down on an airplane, I am doomed. So this used to like bum me out to no end when I was a kid, and I would fight, not just in airplanes, but in cars, like everywhere, because I always wanted to be reading, and I couldn't read in a moving vehicle, and it's just like, why, why can't I just read? That's all I want to do with all this like extra time that I have, and I
Yeah.
can't
And
because I make myself
you got
sick
those 1,000 books you have to read before whichever
before
grade it
fifth
was.
grade.
Before fifth grade, you
Yeah.
have to you got to take advantage of all the time you can get.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But no, like I got sick enough times that I was like, this is not workable. So basically, everything I do on a flight is audio based.
Right.
Uh, I I like to ignore like they have the in-flight movies and things. I tend to ignore those. I basically like to get a good, healthy collection of podcasts that I've got sort of stored up for a while, or maybe start a new podcast series that I is new to me that I have downloaded on my phone that I can just listen to on the flight, and then cycle between podcasts, audiobooks, and music. So I'm hoping to maybe get to the Alter Bridge album. I think Pawns and Kings is the next one for me, and will
Ooh.
sort of catch me up. I'm hoping to get to that maybe one time before I leave, but definitely on my trip. Like that's going to be one of the soundtracks that is going to accompany me to Japan this time.
Excellent. Oh, glad to hear
Hmm.
it. Very good. Because they got a new album coming out in January. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
should be
depend
I should be all
timing.
set for that.
Yeah, we'll be able to
Hmm.
listen to it like first time, maybe at the time it comes out, depending on how schedules work. I've been listening. They've released a new single, so I've been binging that quite a bit because I do like it. So I've been
Nice.
listening to that quite a bit recently as well, in between some of the older stuff. Yeah, very good. Yeah, I've not had a lot of experience with long haul flights, but the only one I did was also when I went to New Zealand,
Hmm.
and it was kind of funny because there were the in-flight movies where we were watching, but because of Qatar, there were certain censorships which I found potentially quite funny. I can't
Oh
remember at
wow.
the time now, but I do remember seeing certain things going, "Oh, that's interesting." There's certain scenes that got cut or whatever. It was just like
Hmm.
also such a random collection of films as well. It's just like, oh well, I'll just listen to music.
Hmm.
That's how I got through that one, and I slept a lot. We talked about that in the maybe that was off camera. I sleep very well on public transport, so that 18-hour flight to Auckland, I think I slept for probably about a good half of it, maybe a bit more. Maybe it's
Yeah,
just the dim
that's something else
lights
that I
just sent me
that
off
I
to sleep.
can't do. Yeah, that's
Ah,
something else that I can't do unless I can lie down. I can't sleep sitting up, I think is the problem. Because if I can't lie down, I can barely get any sleep. My goal is to get 4 hours on the 14-hour flight. And if I can achieve that, I will like fight and just force myself to sit and be bored and do nothing. And I've got a little timer going where I've got all the various stimuli as much as I can just shut out, and just lie there and then wake up, less than 4 hours, like wake up 1 hour later and be like, okay, time to keep up the fight. I got to go back to sleep. 1 hour is not enough. And I'll just force myself to get 4 hours of sleep. That's my goal because I think of it as this 14-hour flight. I can basically break it up into stages of, 4 to 5 hours. And so 5 hours up, 4 hours out, 5 hours up again.
Right.
And then I land and I've got all the stimuli of the new airport and getting around Japan and all the excitement of being in the country, right? That sort of takes things over for a little while from there. And then I go somewhere and just crash
Right.
for the night.
I can imagine
So,
because of the jet lag and
yeah,
everything. Yeah.
yeah. Well, the jet lag makes it harder when you're in Japan because your entire day is like flipped around. Because from where I am, basically Japan is the other side of the world. It's like a 13 or a 14-hour time difference, depending on whether or not it's daylight savings time.
Mm.
And so that basically means like the internal clock adjustment, right? Day one, it's super easy to fall asleep if I haven't been asleep on the flight, which because I'm just exhausted. Day two, it's usually pretty hard for me to fall asleep. So what I've taken to do to combat jet lag, specifically, this works really well on day two, but it'll work pretty well on any time in the first part of the trip, is just some sort of high intensity physical activity. So I like to go on hikes. So I've got a major hike planned like soon after I arrive, where it's like this 8 hour excursion over four different mountain peaks that I'm gonna try and do on either day two or day three, depending on what the weather's like, and hopefully just wipe myself out, and then I can get some sleep for that day. And then day three forward, I have no good solution. I just try and maintain the same, like be very rigid about my sleep schedule day after day after day. And then after about a week, I tend to adjust, which is why I like to go for more than a week because it's like, okay, I've just adjusted. Now it's time to leave.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
don't get any time in that little sweet spot of I've fully adjusted to Japan time now and I can just enjoy going around the country. Uh, but yeah, to tie all the way back, right? The sort of key differentiator on how pleasant my experience of a flight is, if I can lie down, and I've had this both when I was lucky enough to get an upgrade to, I can't remember if it was technically business or first class, but one of the classes where you can get a lie flat bed. And then there was another time, I think I talked about this on the podcast before, where I was airsick enough that they called a doctor over, and the doctor was like, he needs to lie down. And so they like roped off an area by one of the restrooms, and I could then just sleep. And it was insane. It was just like, I'm so used to that flight being like debilitating,
Mm.
and whenever I can lie down and actually fall asleep, it's like it doesn't exist. It's like a time warp, and I just go to sleep, and then I wake up, and it's time for the descent, and I'm like, this is such a hard thing for me to go through. How is this so easy?
Oh, well, I'm just saying, if you're struggling to sleep, Rook, you know what you have to do. Give yourself motion sickness.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Yeah, sure.
I can't guarantee they'll call a doctor over every time, and even if they did, I can't guarantee that they would tell me to lie down. But
Just tell them if you have to relay instructions. What do we have to do? Oh, the last time this happened, I just got upgraded to first class. Yeah, I'm sure they'll go along
yeah,
with that plan.
yeah.
Um, I,
But yeah, so that's the plan for the flight. It's gonna be a nightmare. The fun thing about the flight on the way back is you go back in time, and I've always thought that was fun.
yes, I was gonna say it's really bad for you, like when you fly to Japan, because not only is it like a really long flight, but you're losing a day because you cross the international date line like the
Yep.
wrong way, if that makes sense. So you're
Right.
going really really
Mm-hmm.
far forward in time.
Yep.
So yeah, so you just not only is it a long flight, but you lose additional time, and that just must be
You do.
heartbreaking. It's like, oh, I've lost a day of my holiday already. Then when you
Yeah.
fly
Well, I
back, yeah,
plan for it now, but it used to be something that I would think about because it's like, okay, what if I don't? When I was living in Japan, I was like, what if I don't come back to the States? I'll never get that day back.
ah, wow. You'd be still bitter. That'll be the thing they'll write on like on your tombstone. A rook, still bitter about that lost day.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, I got over it, but it was a weird thing to think about.
right. it's funny how that was. It's a thing too. Like when you read about some of those Pacific islands or nations that end up switching to the other side of the international date
Mm,
line. So certain
mm-hmm.
days for them just didn't happen. They went from 31st of December all the way through to like January 2nd or whatever it is. You know, they just jumped completely. It's like that must be mental.
Oh yeah.
Just that
There
idea,
was
because
a
like that day doesn't exist ever.
yeah. There was like a riot, I think, when some country, I forget which one it was, they switched from their traditional calendar to the like modern Western calendar. I want to say Gregorian, but I don't actually know if it was the Gregorian calendar. Uh, they switched to the like calendar and they lost 11 days in the process. And the people
Oh
like rioted because they wanted their 11 days back.
wow! Are you right? Gregorian calendar, very good. You're all right.
All right.
There
I
you
got
go.
it. Ooh.
Very good.
Some of the weirdest information sticks and some of the most important stuff does not.
So that's very impressive that you've yeah. I've crossed the meridian, the Greenwich meridian, quite a few times, but yeah, I haven't crossed the international date line yet. But you have, so yeah, it's
Hmm.
yeah, opposite sides. Yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sure it's going to be good. Anything? Are you planning to go to said theme park during your visit
No,
as
and
well?
no plans to go to Fuji Q Highland this time.
Oh, you know we have to do now. If you got a free day, you know we have to do.
Oh yeah. I
Because
might be able to make it work if I wanted to. This is the other fun thing about it is because I'm not living in Japan, I can get the Japan Rail Pass,
yeah,
which it's so transformative. It gives you so much flexibility to just be able to be like, "Oh, what am I going to do today? I don't know. I'll just hop on a train and go somewhere and have it paid in advance."
that's great.
It's
Um,
incredible.
Is there anything in particular with this trip? I mean, obviously we're reconnecting with people you haven't seen for a while and that, but are you wanting it to be a kind of sort of retracing your steps of places where you went, or you'd been when you were spending your time in Japan, or are you still very much open to going to new places that you haven't been before?
Well, it's sort of a way of revisiting my steps and sort of not. So, one of the things that I thought was kind of fun about walking Japan is that I would stumble across these places where it would be like, this is a really cool place. I do not have time to fully explore it because I got to get up the next morning and keep walking because I was on like a time limit. And I was like, okay, but what I can do is if I get to a place and I'm like, this place is cool, I want to come back and spend a little bit more time here and like more fully explore it, I can always do that later. And
Hmm.
so there have been the past few times I've been to Japan, and going forward, this next time I'm going to Japan, there have been a few different places where it's like, I'm going to have this like portion of my trip that I set aside to go and visit like some place that I thought was cool on the walk and spend a little bit more time there. And the place that's like foremost in my mind where this happened was like I think maybe one of the first times I did it, the Jozanke Onsen area, which I'd never heard of before. It's like just outside of Sapporo, and there's all these like hot springs resorts and hiking trails. And I also learned it's like one of the places where everybody seems to be really into siphon coffee, which is this very theatrical method of brewing coffee where they like take out like a an actual flame and they like heat the water underneath so it like boils up into the ground and then falls back down, and this like it's like this almost like an hourglass sort of setup, and it's very fancy. It makes a great show while they're brewing you coffee. And so I had no idea what it was. I thought it was just a different type of coffee. And so I went up to the like place where I was staying and I was like, I want a vanilla ice cream cone and a siphon coffee. And they were like, okay. Uh, turned out to be a great combination. They thought it was weird, but I loved it. And but they were like, it's going to be a while for that siphon coffee. I was like, oh yeah, that's fine. Take your time. And I didn't realize what they meant by be a while because it was this whole production where they were like, okay, now we're gonna light the flame. Now we're gonna, and I got to watch the whole thing. It was super cool.
Ah, awesome.
Uh,
The showmanship.
yeah,
Decent.
yeah, and I got to go on a bunch of hikes, and I got to stay at a very nice hot springs resort, and it was just outside of Sapporo, so it was pretty accessible. And I was like, like I said, this was like one of the first times I did this. I was like, oh, this plan is a success. I gotta do this more. So for this particular trip, I'm planning to head down to Kyushu, and there are a number of places there. Actually, one of which I've never been to. I wanted to go to Nagasaki because I've never been there, and I wanted to visit it on my walk, but it was too far out of my way. So I'm gonna make it a point to actually get to Nagasaki this time. And the other thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna spend some time in Kumamoto, where that was the place that I walked through. That I was like, this place is really cool. I want to spend some time here. So I'm hoping that works out well.
Decent. You seem to have got it all figured out anyway, so it's just a case of tying
Well,
up the loose ends before you
I
go.
have the broad strokes figured out. The when it comes down to the actual details of what I'm gonna do in those places, not so much.
Are you somebody who would like, in the days now before you go away, are you going to meticulously research a lot of stuff, or you just sort of a go with the flow? I'll just see what I stumble across. I guess, especially with the walk across Japan, you must have had that sort of more
Yeah, the
adventurous side to you, right?
the walk completely changed how I go on trips, especially in Japan. Um, because up until that point, I was always the sort of person who was like, if you want something to happen, you need an itinerary. You need to plan ahead. Particularly, I mean, there are some events that you just have to, right? If you want to have an experience like the Japanese version, if you want to go see a theatrical show in Japan, you need to have the tickets to that show. You need to budget that time. You need to make the reservation so many months in advance. You can't just like on a whim go off and see a show. But there are certain activities that you can do more or less on a whim. And particularly if you're not feeling like super touristy, and then there are also certain touristy activities that you could like if you want to go visit a castle, a famous castle. I mean, that's it's the castle's there. You can just show up and go to the castle, and they're usually pretty cheap to get in as well. So I like to do a mix. And so what I used to do before the trip was I would always plan things out meticulously, and maybe leave a little bit of time here and there for free time, but basically have my entire trip planned out beforehand, not be particularly spontaneous. And then I walked the length of the country, and it was like, no, I can just find stuff to do, and it's fine. And so ever since then, I've become much more open to okay, there are going to be like big ticket items that I want to do. Like I know there are a certain number of hikes that I want to go on, but besides that, no. Like my ideas as to what I want to do are pretty open. And it's like I want to go to these places. This is where my like sort of planning has left me in for this particular trip. I was like, I know I want to go to these places, sometimes just to see friends, sometimes to make sure I can revisit places or go to places I've never been before. And so those all line up because I need to know where I'm staying at what days. But as for what I'm going to do on each day, I'm going to leave that a little bit open. And I sort of like to maybe do a little bit of research on the fly. So, like, I've got lots of long train journeys that I'll be going on because I'm going so far up and down. I'm going down from like the southern island of Kyushu, like way all the way up to back where I used to live, Hachinohe, which is still an area where one of my friends is staying, where he's living. And so it's like, okay, uh, that's going to be a long trip, and maybe I can get some planning done on the train and just be like, what are cool things to do in this area? And some of it, right, like maybe not like I'll be planning a little bit ahead because when I'm going back to the place where I lived for 5 years, it's like, okay, I can get around that area. I have a pretty good idea of what is and isn't available there. So I might do some trips to some places around the Aomori area that it's just like, okay, this is just stuff that I know is cool. But we'll see.
That's good. Yeah, I think there's a certain spontaneity, especially I think if you've got either that mentality that you feel comfortable with doing that, or I guess it could both could apply. If you've got the language skills, if you're in a country that is not with your native tongue, that you have the confidence you can kind of go around and understand what's happening, or go and ask people what's going on over there, or where's a good place to eat, blah blah blah. You go sort of spontaneously about it. Otherwise, it's very easy just to be constantly looking up stuff on TripAdvisor or whatever. Like, where's the best place to eat and all this sort of thing. Where
Uh-huh.
sometimes just going in, you discover a little gem that you might not have discovered otherwise, or hearing recommendations from other people is really nice, rather than
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Um, oh well, we'll be obviously the next time we reconvene, you would have been and come back,
Yep.
um,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully you would have readjusted back to normal life again. But we'll love to hear about all the things you get up to. Um,
Yeah, I'll be excited to report back.
absolutely. And yeah, you'll let us know everything you've been up to. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
any cheeky photos or videos you want to share on the podcast, then by all means, just you do what you want to do.
Yeah, I've thought about it. The issue is going to be getting you the files because you're the one who does the recording. So,
Hmm. I
but
guess
I don't think that'll be too insurmountable of a challenge.
videos would be tougher just because they're
Right.
large files and they're very annoying to shift. But you could, I mean, photos would be pretty easy
Yeah.
because I either show them in a I could just dump all of them because they can easily get uploaded and then they can all get shared onto through OBS has a really good function where you can just show photos in a folder as a like I was gonna say live stream. That's not what I mean. Like as a slideshow. That's the word I want.
Mm-hmm.
You can either do it random or in a set order, so that could be quite easy. So there are definitely, if you're keen, then you're very welcome to. Would love to see that stuff. Um,
Yeah, I think it'd be fun.
Decent. I hope you have a good time away. I'm sure you will, especially after so many years. It'll be a lot of memories will come flooding back. I'm sure.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I'm excited just to go and be in the country. Like that's the other reason why I don't really feel compelled to make a lot of detailed plans, is because part of the joy for me is just walking around the streets and being like, I'm in Japan.
how do you think your language skills are going to hold up after so many years away?
Well, my expectation is that my ability to understand Japanese will be pretty high, and my ability to communicate Japanese will be pretty low. And also, I expect, because I think I may have mentioned this on one of the podcasts or another, I expect that even though my understanding level is pretty high, I might be a little bit slower than I used to be.
Hmm.
So I'll be curious to see if I can still keep up with the announcements that scroll by on the train.
Oh, right, right, right. Like the more sort of spontaneous things. I guess, yeah, you've got good understanding, but you're doing it nowadays in a setting where you've got a bit more time to.
Right.
I'm not under time pressure. There's a
Mm-hmm.
person not standing in front of me waiting for me to answer, kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm. Well, that's good. Well, we'll see. We'll see if that bears fruit or not. Oh, that's something that's just because we're talking about languages, just reminded me. One thing that I am doing, which I didn't really think I would be doing with Elle, is I'm actually speaking to her more in Spanish than I thought I would.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
so I'm doing a mixture. I'm doing English and Spanish with her.
Nice.
Um, so yeah, that's just something just 'cause it just popped into my head because it sort of caught me earlier on because we were out today and somebody asked, oh, because they were people who didn't know me and they're like, oh, where are you from? Oh, you're from Scotland. Oh, right, very interesting. And then they see me as like this some exotic character, right, from from a country that they
Mm-hmm.
don't know so well. And they're like, well, how do you speak to her? And I was like, oh, I kind of speak to her in both.
Mm-hmm.
I'm normally like repeating. I say it in one language and I repeat because obviously I'm not saying very complicated phrases to her at the moment. So even
Right.
though I talk to her like I talk to an adult, I don't baby talk it,
Mm-hmm.
in terms of baby vocabulary too much. But the things I'm saying are still quite simple, so I end up just translating. Just like it's again something I didn't really expect to have. I just thought I'd always speak to her in English. But I've got
Yeah, that's
an instinctive
interesting.
drive to speak to her in Spanish, which is very weird.
Hmm.
Again, I don't know where that's come from. I think maybe because I'm in the country, so it probably has.
Mm-hmm.
If I was outside, it would be very different. So yeah, it's rubbing off.
Interesting. Yeah, I there was one family that I met. I think they were friends of a friend, and they were very specifically and very very mindfully and with a lot of discipline, making it so that one parent always spoke to the child in Japanese and the other parent always spoke to the child in English,
Mm,
because they had heard that that's the best way to raise someone to be bilingual. and the child was old enough that they were able to, respond or like produce language in either one. And one of the biggest challenges with the particular approach that this family was taking was the kid can speak whatever they want to whoever they want. And the challenge is, okay, my kid's asking me a question in Japanese, but I have to respond in English and to stick to that.
Yeah. Right.
So I'll be curious to see what happens with L.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a bit strange for us because obviously we've got like trilingual situation going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas my wife, even though she speaks Spanish perfectly, there's no issue there. It's just
Mm-hmm.
her maternal language is Catalan, so
Right.
she would always speak to her in Catalan.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm kind of realizing I'm speaking to Elle more in Spanish because I think when I talk to her, I want my in-laws to understand what I'm saying to her. I don't know
Ah.
why, because I'm not saying anything that would be strange or whatever, but it's just there's that sort of instinctive reaction where if I'm with my mother-in-law and
Mm-hmm.
with I want to be able I want her to be able to understand what because she doesn't understand English. I want her to be able to understand what I'm saying to her.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so maybe it might be a case when we go back to our own flat, then I might end up speaking more English. I'm not sure,
Maybe.
but because we've got that trilingual situation going on, if I speak to her always in English, and then my wife always speaks to her in Catalan, and then as a family we'll speak English because we speak English as a couple anyway. Spanish is kind of missing, but it's not really missing because in school they'll learn it, and all like media, there's so much more Spanish media than Catalan media. So that won't
Mm-hmm.
be on the TV. There's Spanish all the time. So it's not going to be an issue really.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe it's just like a way for me to practice too. But yeah, I need to make sure that she kind of understands as she gets older that it's English with dad, um, as a dominant language. So
Mm-hmm.
especially since I make mistakes in Spanish anyway. So yeah, it's interesting also too, like learning all the vocabulary for certain things. You don't realize
Mm-hmm.
that, like I mean, again, when you know it with Japanese too, when you put into certain situations, you're saying like, oh wow, there's all this wacky vocabulary that I wouldn't have learned otherwise. It's the same, like I
Oh
know
yeah.
like I've got all these words for the different types of baby beds and the nappy, and oh, I guess do you know what a nappy is?
You're talking about diapers
There you go.
essentially?
Yep.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we never say diaper in the UK. We always say nappy. Oh yeah, the dummy.
Okay.
Do you know what a dummy is?
No, unless you're talking about like a dummy that you put clothes on.
Ah, no. So yeah, different context. Yeah, you're right in that case. Like a mannequin, you mean in that context, like a
Yeah.
dummy. Yeah, we normally say dummy more for like a crash test dummy. The
Mm-hmm.
ones in the shop we call it a mannequin. No, the dummy is like the pacifier.
Ah, okay. I
Um,
think Binky is the thing that I would expect to hear in my region.
oh, interesting. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
little regional dialect difference there. Oh, bing. No,
Yeah,
that, I don't know. I've never heard that word at all. Huh?
I bet.
I thought at first you'd mispronounce one of the characters from Animaniacs. I was like, wait, what? What do you call it?
Nope,
Hmm. Okay.
not
Um.
Binky in the brain.
Yeah, exactly. Binky in the brain. Yeah. Um. Yeah. So I've just learned all of this vocabulary, and then even like I don't know what they are in English. So it's just yeah, it's quite funny because you're in
That
that
is
world and
funny.
you have to just learn that word, that word, that word. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. You just yeah. Same with like I don't know if would you ever say that with Japanese that there are words in
Oh
Japanese
yeah.
that you don't know the English equivalent.
Oh yeah, definitely. Particularly when it comes to types of fish.
Ah, right. I'm with you on that. Food is just
Yep.
a minefield because like the words are just so different. I guess yeah,
Oh
especially
yeah.
especially from a perspective like I mean I'm just thinking from a European perspective where the vegetables and the fruits are the same or the food is the same, but the translation is just so different. But you're talking about a completely different
Mm-hmm.
culture. They'll have different food stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There are some foods where like the English is the Japanese word because it's just a Japanese food. But there's also ones where it's just like okay, this has an English word, but I don't know that word.
Hmm. Or especially like I find with fish in particular, because I might see the fish on my plate, but
Mm-hmm.
then if you show me the picture of the fish, like as an entity, I won't be able to
Mm-hmm.
relate the two. So I might know
Oh yeah.
one in Spanish and I'll know the other one in English. I'll be like, eh. So yeah,
Right.
it's it's my bugbear every time I go to a restaurant.
What
And
is Thai?
the
This
second course is normally meat or fish, and I'm just like, I can't remember these words in Spanish, and then I don't remember what the translation is in English either.
yeah. So Thai is apparently sea bream. I've never ordered a sea bream in my life, but I've ordered a lot of Thai.
I've eaten sea bream in Scotland. I think I've eaten it once or twice now because I've got it. It's on the tip of my tongue in Spanish, and I can't remember what it is. That's really annoying. Oh, that's not the word I was expecting. Oh, maybe it's the word in Catalan. Oh God,
Wow.
that's the
It's the
problem.
trilingual
Yeah,
situation strikes again.
right. I mean, the fruit and vegetables are just that alone is a nightmare because they're so different, like
Hmm.
really, really, really different. I've got a question for you because maybe this is something I'm making up. If I say the word garbanzo bean, do you know what
Hmm.
that is?
I know I've heard of it before.
Okay,
Uh, Wait a minute. I was about to look it up, but I was like, no, no. I want to try and puzzle this out. Let's see.
I've got another
Garbanzo
word
bean.
for it. So
That's like
it's possible that you know one and not the other. So
chickpeas.
yeah, it's a chickpea.
That's it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Yep,
Would
I
would
got it.
would you say chickpea or garbanzo bean?
Chickpea is what I would normally say, which is why it took me so long to get there from garbanzo bean. But I have heard the term garbanzo bean before.
Interesting. Okay, so it might be a regional dialect. 'Cause I've heard people on American TV shows saying garbanzo, because in Spanish it's garbanzo, but in
Oh.
Catalan they are. Let me get this right. Cigrons.
Oh, okay.
Very different.
Very different. Yeah.
The one we were talking about today is the peach fruit is
Mm-hmm.
melocotón in Spanish. Very different.
Mm-hmm.
And then in Catalan it's presic.
Wow.
Again,
Momo
so
in
different.
Japanese.
Which one was it in Japanese?
Momo.
Momo. Ah.
Yep.
So it's
Or
just
depending on the context, because the joys of kanji, depending on the context, it could also be read as to. So even though Momo is peach, Hakuto is white peach
ah.
because you've added the kanji for white in front, which when you have the kanji for white on its own, it's read as Shiro. But if you put it with another one, it tends to get read as Haku.
If you could just imagine that mind blown gif, that's me right now.
Yeah.
How's that work? Yeah, so it's just yeah. I think that's a problem because I'm just so used to hearing my wife and my mother-in-law talking about food in Catalan. So I have the
Hmm.
Catalan words. I'm like, and I have the word in my head. It's like, is that Catalan or Spanish? I don't know.
Wow.
It's yeah, it's quite a headache um, when they're so different. And you just like, there's no relation between the two. It's like, why is it called that? So yeah, it's a yeah. Okay, so I'm glad you had the same thing in Japanese. There, there's very specific vocabulary that you know, but only in that specific, working environment or context or whatever. Yeah.
Right. And like the weird thing about Japanese is you will keep finding alternate words for the same thing long after you think you know them all. And just be like, wait a minute, wasn't this thing? Well, yeah, that is that thing, but it's also this.
Oh, but why? Because of regional dialect or something else?
I'm not sure why. I think part of it's regional dialect, and I think part of it is like alternate readings in kanji that evolve differently over time, maybe.
Right.
So yeah, it's really interesting. Like
Hmm.
for so to give you an example, here's something you'll recognize probably. Salmon.
Oh, like salmon, fish.
Yes,
Yeah.
that is a word for salmon. But if you go to a grocery store and you pick up some sake, that is another word for salmon.
Ah.
And that one obviously is not based off of the foreign pronunciation of
Right.
salmon.
Right.
That is based more off of the like Japanese pronunciation. But normally, like it's read as sake, which is the same as the like alcohol sake.
Mhm.
But I guess I don't know how regional this is, but it becomes shake in a lot of conversations as well. So you have
Oh.
sake, shake, and salmon, and all three of those words will communicate salmon in
Oh no.
Japanese.
Right. It's just yeah. I
Oh,
mean,
and I found another one. There's a salmon trout, which is a masu. But I mean, a salmon trout and a salmon are two different things. That's like an English thing that's confusing.
yeah. I guess that yeah. It must be some sort of texture of the fish that makes it look like a salmon or taste like a salmon, but it's not a salmon. It's a trout. Yeah. Oh man. Oh, that's a weird thing. Okay, this is such a strange thing to say. Right. So I I might have said it before on the podcast, but one of the things a few years ago that I binged a lot of was Gordon Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. And there obviously it was
Okay.
based originally in the UK, but there's a lot more American episodes. The
Hmm.
thing that confused the bejesus out of me was the concept of a chicken fried steak.
Oh, yes.
Well, firstly, chickens can't fry steaks.
Right.
But
Yes, of course.
haha, funny. Right. But
Yes.
it's also, what do you mean chicken fried steak? Is it a chicken or a steak? It doesn't make sense to
Right.
me. But now I understand. You're frying other meats as if it were chicken, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I say exactly as if I fully understand. I don't fully understand. That's more southern US than it is northern. So my understanding is yes, you're frying a steak as if you would fry a chicken. However, I can't guarantee you that I fully understand that phrase myself. So
Okay.
if anyone out here is listening, if they've made it this far into the Keeping You Company episode and they've got through all of the like everything else and you still are here, first of all, thank you. Second of all, if you do know the difference between chicken fried steak and any other type of steak, please let us know.
Well, that would make sense because the version of it I saw was like a steak that was panko breadcrumbed,
Hmm.
but the steak was really, really thin. I was just like, what the hell is going on? I'm so confused because that concept's just not a thing in the UK. And I'm going to get corrected on that now, but as far as I'm aware, that's not a concept that is in the UK. So I was just so confused. Like, what the hell? I understand those three words, but not together.
Yeah. Hmm.
Zero sense to me. So yeah, thank you for clarifying that. Oh dear. I mean, you said to the viewers, thank you for making it this far. We did somehow get 3 hours in. I don't know how we managed that exactly. Um,
Yeah. I mean, neither did I. I was expecting this one to be relatively short, but I mean,
same.
yeah,
That's what
we
happens
we
when we get
just found a
talking.
way to keep it going.
Maybe we should call it based upon the time.
Yeah.
You've been on a lot of roller coasters. I've seen you've been on quite a lot of the
I'm
extreme
very
extreme
excited
roller
to
coasters.
see what the roller coaster tycoon version of me has been up to.
You'll see that you've had quite a journey. There was one, but I can't remember. It was. I think maybe it was the one I cut, or maybe it wasn't. Because there's one where you were just running around in circles for 2 hours. I was just like, because the pathfinding isn't the most intelligent. The guests are a little bit derpy, but it's very funny because you can manipulate them very easily
Mhm.
with certain things. Um, there's a funny thing in the game. It's such a weird thing to say at the end, but there's like a thing in the game where you can build a hedge maze, right?
Ooh.
But um, the way that the original pathfinding was done was when a guest, I'm going to forget the maths now, but I can simplify it. When a guest reached a junction or an intersection in the maze, there'd be a certain probability that they'd go left, right, or straight ahead. But
Hmm.
because of the way that it was programmed, it was more likely that they would go into a left hand, if I get this right, a left-handed indent, and then which was like a cul-de-sac, and when they
Hmm.
left, it'd be more likely that they would turn right.
Uh-oh.
So they'd keep going back towards the entrance.
Yeah.
So they had like this experiment. We had a fully left indented maze and a right indented maze. and they didn't have to be very long either, by the way. And the throughput difference was just vast, like astronomically different between the two. And these, it could be the
Wow.
simplest way. Literally, you just go in a straight line and you get to the exit because there's so many of these left-handed indents, and then they go into it, and they go back towards the exit again. They would be trapped in there almost infinitely. It's very funny, very very funny.
Amazing.
So basically, the version I cut, I think there was a point where you were just walking around in circles, just constantly saying, going to all the food stalls, saying, "I'm not hungry, I'm not hungry," but you kept going to all the food stalls, and it maybe,
Amazing.
and there's another where you had some chips, and you're going up to a chip stall, saying, "I've already got chips." I was like, "Sit down and eat your chips then." You
Beautiful.
dopey,
I gotta
dopey,
find some
dopey.
Japanese food stalls and walk up to them and say, "I'm not hungry."
But there's some. I'll send them to you. There's a really funny YouTube videos of people going to actual theme parks, and the title would be like, "If I acted in a real theme park like my guest in Rollercoaster Tycoon," and just the way that they interact and the comments they come out with is very funny, very very funny. So yeah,
I bet. I bet that's great.
so yeah, you'll enjoy. I think yeah, we haven't quite reached the end of the third theme park, but maybe here's what we could do: is a little special uh, ending bit for the people who are watching this on YouTube. We'll just keep this video running until Rook leaves the third park, and we'll see what you get up to. And I'm sure there'll be somebody in the comments who's recorded everything that you've been up to and all the things you've done. Uh,
Mhm.
so yeah, we'll keep that running. So for people on Spotify, the podcast is going to stop right now. But for the people on YouTube, you got an extra, I don't know, like half an hour or so of a Rook goes around a theme park.
Silently.
Well, yeah. Well, no, I'll turn the sound on, so we have a little bit of
Oh, okay.
I haven't had any of the background noise from the game as we've been playing because, well, we've been talking because it's a bit of a cacophony with all the screaming from the roller coasters and all the sounds and the merry-go-round, and it goes 1 hour. So it's like, nope, we'll have the sound off, but I'll turn the sound on so you can hear a little bit of that. So that'll be a little
Cool.
extra thing for the
Hopefully,
people on YouTube.
hopefully we don't wake anybody up who was listening on YouTube and wanted to fall asleep.
Oh, that's true. I'll keep it low. I'll keep it low. It's fine. It's all
Yeah.
good. Well, I hope, I'm sure all the viewers will agree, but I hope you have an amazing time in Japan and disconnect from normal reality for a bit and, you know, retrace all your steps and have just a great time hiking up mountains and eating lots of fish that you don't know the name of in English. And
Hmm.
I hope you have an amazing time. And obviously,
Thank you. I hope you have a good time at your new job and continue to have a wonderful time that you wouldn't change for anything as a father.
oh, thank you. I'm sure I will. I hope so. And obviously, if people listening to this, yeah, there's a good chance that during October my streaming will not be up and running as a regular thing, but then hopefully, as in the coming months, we can try and put something together. We'll just play it by ear. Yeah, I will not pester you for updates while you're away, but if you send me an update or two, that'd be greatly appreciated because I'd love to see where you are and also like also to see on a map where you are because obviously you're saying all these places. I'm like, I don't know where. I know Tokyo, I know Osaka, that's it. So
Hmm.
if you want to point them out, say I'm here. I'm like, oh, that's cool. So yeah, but yeah, I hope you have an amazing time at Rook. And
Thanks. And for everyone who's listening, I hope we were able to keep you company. And if you're on YouTube, enjoy watching the false version of me walking around, the guest version of me, I'll say, walking around the theme park that Scott Sword constructed.
absolutely, yeah. Thank you everybody for listening, and hope you've enjoyed this month's episode. And yeah, if you want to keep in touch with us, then probably the best place is the Discord. I'll leave a link in there. Rook pokes his head in every so often if there's something language or culture based that grabs his attention. So we're about in there. And yeah, I guess we'll see you for the November episode. So thanks for
Sounds good.
listening / watching everybody. Take care.
Bye bye.